2014, here we come. It is Tuesday, the 31st day of December, 2013. And I do not feel up to the job. I'll be honest with all of you out there. As soon as I got off air yesterday, I just thought about all the countless issues that I didn't discuss that were so important of what we've seen in 2013 and now going into 2014, why it is such an incredibly critical year across the board. And it really is the year that the global awakening has begun and when establishment propaganda is failing. You know, Melissa Harris Perry, that's one of the top stories in the country, apologizes for attacking Mitt Romney's adopted black grandson. And that's because she made vicious remarks because she is a racialist, racial divider, race pimp, monster pig. This is a woman who says your children do not belong to you. In promos, officially put out by MSNBC, this is an absolute fascist dirtbag posing as a liberal. And that's what these people are just packs of dividers and manipulators of the establishment. And everything that comes out of her filthy mouth is absolutely psych warfare approved above the Obama administration, directly out of the psych warfare operations of Ford, Carnegie, and other major foundations. That's who really runs this country. That's where Obama came from. And you get to see with these people, Media Matters and all of them, you get to see who these people really are. When they see people with Bibles and guns, when they see good, wholesome families, they hate our guts, folks. These are deviant mental patients. And you've really got to just come down and understand that they aren't going to let us live the way we live. They're going to program us and run our lives. That's what they lust after, is running our lives. I don't want to run your life. You don't want to run my life. We're normal. The problem is these people do want to run our lives, and they're not liberals. I want 2014 to be the year where we stop calling them liberals or even progressives. Yeah, they progress like cancer. Their reforms are like throwing somebody into a wood chipper. Oh, you're reformed, but not in a good way. These people are not liberals. They are ultra-authoritarians. 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 And I am sick of them. I am sick and tired of them. They are a menace. They are a danger. I can't enjoy a football game. I can't go to a movie. I cannot unplug from this because I know this menacing threat is always growing, and I don't like having to focus on these people. I don't like them having to invade my mind and your beautiful minds out there. But we've got to focus on them to get them out of the way and not just sit there and halfway fight them and mince words and call them dumb liberals. They're not dumb liberals. They've conquered America. They're teaching 5-year-olds how to masturbate in public schools. They're having kids kicked out of school or arrested for Nerf guns in their own yards. They're destroying our language, our culture, everything good. They're overturning the Magna Carta, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment. They are the opposite of liberals. They are authoritarian criminals. That's what they are, authoritarian criminals that pose as these liberals who really are there just dividing everyone. And that's why nobody buys their Duck Dynasty stuff. Nobody buys them saying, how dare the Romneys adopt a black child? Yeah, it'd be better. I mean, I've talked to so many so-called leftists who say, including black ones on air, well, you know, there are too many black people and we need to abort them. And I'm just like, no, we need to build everybody up and not destroy society. And we need to not abort 52% of black people before they're born. And Planned Parenthood was set up to eradicate blacks. And they just go, shut up, whitey. You see, because for those people, the sacrament is being in charge and race baiting and literally killing as many black babies as possible. I'm telling you, folks, that's what they want. That's what they do. That's why they created these people. We'll be right back. And then we have Steve Quayle, always one of the most popular guests on this show, very hard to get on the air. Steve Quayle of stevequayle.com will be joining us to talk about world events, missing nuclear weapons, you name it. He's got a lot of really interesting information to talk about with us. The preparations for riots, civil war, that is now even mainstream news. He was the guy on this show 4 years ago, just 4 years ago, who said they're going around getting GPS coordinates of all your front doors for drones and blimps And even I said, that's a little hard to believe. And he said, well, I was told that by special forces in Colorado, face to face. And then about 2 years later, it came out to be true. I mean, even I couldn't believe that then. And now that's kind of passé. Like, oh, of course the drones are in the air and targeting everyone by name and by their home and by their IP address and by their cell phone. It's just a total rollout. So it's always pretty interesting the stuff he has to say. And but it's regardless, it's very thought-provoking. So Steve Quayle will join us for an hour, maybe longer into the third hour if he can do it. It's hard to do just 45 minutes. That's what you have of airtime with somebody like Steve Quayle. He could talk for hours on so many amazing subjects. But that's coming up. Steve Quayle. Where to begin? There's so much to talk about. We're going to get into MSNBC host Melissa Harris Perry apologizes for attack on Mitt Romney's adopted black grandson, and really another disgusting view into the mind of these race pimps, these racialists, who are using race to divide and conquer as they enslave all of us and destroy our Bill of Rights and Constitution, and only a tiny fraction of 1% of the globalists are then basically above the law and are exempt. And they have these communist black groups on record that run around battling. Like, I should do a whole report on this. I've done this before. In fact, we should get the Black Genocide Report filmmaker and author on, and pastor who's done the research, and I've been on the show. We should get him back on to talk about this, because he's dealt with these black leaders in depth in Atlanta and other areas, and he can second what I've heard and seen face-to-face when I worked at local media outlets for years, and then started out on Access Television, which was in the black area of Austin in the worst ghetto. That's where they do a lot of city projects to build it up. And I got a chance to run into the city organizers and the different black groups, and it was incredible. It was always the same standard statement I would get when I was doing a show against abortion. They'd say, who's going to take all these black babies? Nobody wants them. Stupid black babies and blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, well, we need to uplift the community, not abort all the black people. And, you know, how are you claiming you care about black people, but you're just literally foaming at the mouth, getting saliva dripping from the edge of your mouth, literally, talking about killing black babies. And the truth is, the so-called liberal organizations going back about 100 years ago under Margaret Sanger, the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation, and these documents are all public. You can just type in Rockefeller Foundation, Margaret Sanger. I think it was the Colgate Foundation released a bunch of them about 3 decades ago. I know I've sent off 4 of the actual documents, not just reports of it in books, and actually got copies of it and covered it in my film Endgame. And they say in there, it's Margaret Sanger writing back and forth to the Rockefellers and others. She goes, yes, our pilot programs worked very well here in New York. If I just get a few million more dollars, which was hundreds of millions in today's dollars, I can roll this out nationwide. The key is we hire the black preachers, and then we put it out as if it is a uplifting program for blacks. But these have to be people that are basically in league with us. And then we will be able to get rid of all these weeds before they're even born. And so that's why you get around a black community organizer from the Democratic Party. I mean, you're having dinner with them or you're in a hallway with them. They'll turn right there and go, you're not going to stop nothing. We're going to get rid of these. And they'll say N-word to you. And you're like, whoa. They're like, ha, ha, ha. And I'm telling you, that's what this is all about. Because cadres were created 100 years ago. They run every major city, and they'll sit up there, and we're going to get Whitey, and we're going to get the police, and race, which then actually creates more animism from the other side to keep it going. Just like they've caught Hal Turner, I told you long before he got caught, was an FBI asset, the big white supremacist leader, always attacking me literally every time he did a show. Just like the other Hal Turner 2.0s that are out there today, that all they do is stir up trouble and say I'm an agent and all this stuff. It's come out who they work for, and more will come out because this is their agenda. So they're creating the white supremacist groups, and then they're over there creating these black groups that literally sit on top of the black people in every major city. I mean, it's the majority of the black leaders, are absolute psych warfare technicians. They hate black people. They prey on black people. They live in the mansion in the white neighborhood. They'll have a house in the black neighborhood, a small house, and they literally go around keeping everybody in line. And they're like the royalty. The cops leave them alone. The whole system leaves them alone. And they are literally the people that call black folks Uncle Toms, that want to be free market successful, who want to not be involved in a bunch of race baiting. They're actually the Uncle Toms, literally. Literally, ladies and gentlemen. They are absolutely 110% dedicated to keeping black people down. And you have seen what they've done since their Great Society in the 60s. Blacks had a lower illegitimacy rate than whites. The numbers are less than 5% before welfare and all this stuff got phased in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Now blacks have 92% illegitimacy, highest crime rate in the country, the lowest life expectancy, and they weaponize the culture with all the hip-hop and the gangster garbage. Funded, I've talked to high-level people that were at MTV in the 90s, and they were told, we're putting this out, it's weaponized. And look at the blacks all killing each other, and then that sick culture's promoted to everybody else, and it's spread to Russia, Japan, this sick thug culture, because American CIA psych warfare was behind it and how to push it. It is literally a bullet to the head. It has destroyed black people. And she sees somebody like Mitt Romney, who does have an incredibly healthy, happy, successful family. We can put that image back up of them. You say what you want about them. Their fruits have been very good for their family. And I don't think Mitt Romney's a good guy at the end of the day. He's a globalist. But he wasn't wicked enough and anti-human enough to be put in as El Presidente. And so the point is that she sees him with that black grandchild right in the middle of their family, and that sends them into a kicking, fitting rage. That kid was supposed to have its brain sucked out in a partial birth abortion. That child was supposed to be chopped up before it ever left mama's womb. And they are hopping mad that they couldn't dismember that child. I'm telling you right now. Because let me tell you something, chopping up black babies is the apple of their eye. I don't ever hear Al Sharpton talking about New York City, where they take little black kids away from their parents and test pesticides and drugs on them till they die. And even when the whistleblowers go public, the CPS goes public, delivering little 7-, 8-year-old kids to medical facilities. And they tell the moms, we're going to take your 2-year-old. They know how women's psychology works. We're going to take your 2-year-old if you don't give us and sign consents for the 7-year-old. And then they take them and they test pesticides, and the one case they reported on of thousands, and kill them. No. You see, you got to have all this race baiting, and the whites are all out to get you, and the white next door to you hates you, and whites are, the enemy, and they're the devil, and on and on and on and on, so that you never become friends with your neighbor who's white, so you're all paranoid and only believe the people that lead you by the hand. Margaret Sanger's great spiritual granddaughter, Melissa Harris Perry. And we're going to play the clip coming up. But the good news is, in 2013, people don't buy the Duck Dynasty division anymore. They don't buy MSNBC, and she's one of their main quarterbacks, authorized to go out and do what she did. To come out and literally, with hate in her eyes, absolutely with just an enemy of humanity coming together, an enemy. I mean, look at all these so-called liberals, these authoritarian scumbags who wear the shirts, I had an abortion, how great it was, and how they enjoy it. And I was just talking to some guys last night about a girl they knew who later said, I enjoy abortions. I mean, these are human sacrificers. I'm not saying the average person that gets one is. They just believe it's a procedure. They believe the lies. I'm not even judging people here. If your heart was right. The point is, there are people who know what it is, and it is a sacrament of the Democratic Party. Literal, of course it is. There's power in killing your children. That's a commitment to evil. That's a commitment to darkness. That's serious business, ladies and gentlemen. And that will haunt us for generations. That's why America's coming under judgment. You don't believe in God. A country that's so cold-blooded it'll kill 52+ million people since Roe v. Wade, 1973. A country that will devalue humanity. Well, of course we're going to euthanize the old people. And of course they're social engineering us. And of course they're going to take away medical care for the average person. This is a cold-blooded system where they teach all these trendies, all these authoritarian vampire people that they're part of a winning crew when they're really a bunch of criminal locusts. So that's some of the news, and people are lining up to register their guns in Connecticut. We've got more staged terror in Russia. It's a powerful transmission coming up straight ahead. So this woman who is a globalist social engineer, anti-family, anti-liberty technocrat, she knows what she's doing, and she sits there every day trying to keep minorities, who are really the majority now in almost every area of the country, believing they're being persecuted to then hate white people so the government can divide and conquer the population and continue to bankrupt the nation and extract our wealth while they all live in armored compounds with bodyguards above the law. Our guns are taken. Our Bibles are taken. We're the bitter clingers. We're the enemy. If you're not a degenerate criminal, they're your enemy. That's who these people are, is the most nasty control freak. If you read their writings, folks, and I mean, we cover them here on air, I detest these people. I don't hate them. I'm not here demonizing this woman. I cannot describe to you how evil these people are. Do you understand this? These are the most dishonorable people. If you decide to be dishonorable, you are turned over to evil. Those of us that are honorable feel terrible because we're not strong enough to be perfect. Anybody who's honorable knows what I'm talking about. You're not strong enough. You're not honorable enough. You can't help people enough. When you do something selfish or even have a good life, you feel guilty. That's what it's like to be honorable. These people have turned themselves over to pure evil. Now listen to what she had to say about the Romneys' black grandbaby. Again, and they do everything they can in these abortuary Planned Parenthood groups to get laws passed and to not let adoption agencies contact people. They don't want women knowing that somebody might want to adopt that black baby. Like they always say, nobody wants black babies. I've heard that, no exaggeration. I want to get Reverend Childress on, because talking to him on air, he'll start naming names of people that have told him this. He's a black guy. He's around these folks. I've never seen anything like it. In fact, I was here, Rob Dew saw it, with a well-known black commentator for a film, and I ended up not using it just because after I went to dinner with him and heard this stuff, I heard the basic same stuff, and I was so shocked. I get shudders about the look in these black people's eyes, because, again, they've bought into the same deal that all the globalists have. That everybody's scum, and they're feeding on people. It's predatory. And it makes me want to throw up to watch them race bait over all sorts of petty issues or fake church burnings in Alabama, which turned out to be staged, a false flag. And then, meanwhile, they are actually sowing the discord. Now, let's go to this monstrous woman. Here it is. And there's more of it coming up, but there they are laughing about it, making jokes about it. Is it racist? Just absolutely amazing to see this type of garbage. And it shows you the mindset. MSNBC host Melissa Harris Perry offered an apology to the Romney family on Tuesday after a panel on her show mocked the fact that one of Mitt Romney's grandchildren was black. And you can hear the disdain and the hatred. On Sunday's Melissa Harris Perry show, Harris Perry led a panel in discussing the photos of the year, which included Romney Christmas photo. In the photo, Romney is seen holding his adopted grandchild who is black. During the segment, we just played part of it. Guest panelists said one of the things is not like the others. See, it's total one of the things, one of these things. So implying the other white people aren't even humans, and then are laughing at the whole family. These people are such race pimp scum. One of these things is not like the others. One of these things just isn't the same. And that little baby front and center would be that one. For her part, Perry imagined, and it just goes on, but you heard the question at the end, coming up, is this racist? And they do it to where you can't be clear if they're talking about the child or the parents or who, or where they can deny it. It's kind of like when she said, Alex Jones is really bad and a horrible person and the leader of the people that are deeply racist. So they can legally try to claim that, we were just saying his followers are racist. Don't want to turn your guns in? You're racist. And this is the same pig that says the state basically controls your children. I mean, they couldn't say something nice because they're monsters, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. So the only way CNN, MSNBC, and others have any validity or pertinence, relevancy in the world is that the rest of the mainstream media covers them. Because when the media all covers each other, then it creates a magnifying effect, and they do reach a lot of people. It's just that most of what goes out on CNN or MSNBC is seen by very few. But there are a few things each day that they hype and push that they get picked up, including by talk radio, including by the internet, including by alternative media, that together, we crossed that Rubicon about 3 years ago, according to major studies that were even covered by the New York Times, where alternative media together is much bigger than, quote, mainstream media. An example is Infowars.com. If you compare it on the Alexa ratings, or if you compare it on Google Analytics to MSNBC.com, last time I checked, we had about 5 times the traffic of MSNBC's website. And then we're on stations in cities where I've seen the ratings where we'll have 100,000 people tune in over 3 hours on one station. And then you add that over 100 stations, and then the internet. And last time I checked, we just fire and forget, folks. We don't even hardly track this stuff. Had like 500,000 podcast subscribers years ago, and it just grows and grows. I mean, we're number 1 to number 3 on all the big audio listening platforms that are out there now that people can get on their car radios and new cars. It's just everywhere. I mean, I don't even have a way to track our listenership. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But still, even subconsciously, when I'm on MSNBC or CNN or they cover me, it's like still kind of like, ooh, I was on mainstream TV. Big deal. I finally got to the point where I was in the LA Times as the #1 story of political clashes of the year, and I barely even mentioned it. And they had to remind me to mention it. It's just because it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, sure, they have somewhat of an audience. And sometimes if the story gets picked up and goes big, it's important. And it's good when you're covered by the New York Times and Rolling Stone and everything else for other people to finally realize, oh, wow, I've listened to you for years, but you were on Howard Stern. That's incredible. For them, it's like you've been awarded a crown now, and now you have validity when I already had validity. And I'm not here talking about myself today. My journey is your journey, is our journey of a new media, of questioning, of going away from the old system, of a revolution against establishment, state-run media in all of its cyanide, fluoride-flavored Kool-Aid. That we're saying we don't want to drink. We're done. We don't want to buy what you've got. We don't listen to you. We don't trust you. We don't like you. You've been caught lying thousands of times per network. I mean, when I make a mistake and get a date wrong or put up the photo of the wrong person when we're talking about something, I apologize. I retract. I want to. I'm ashamed. I'm angry. I desperately want to do a good job and try as hard as I can with my crew, and they do, I've got to say, an amazing job compared to most media I've worked in. I mean, I've worked in multiple radio stations before I was on Genesis, and they were always getting sued and losing, for saying things that were clearly out of line and not true and then not retracting it. Because the secret is, under statutory law, you got to retract it properly beforehand and not have malice of forethought with intent to do harm. The point is that I try to tell the truth. I try to be accurate. I rack my brain to give you what I really think's going on and to give you what I really think's coming. Every moment of my life is basically like a group of police detectives sitting around a boardroom looking at evidence, trying to figure out exactly who's behind what and how to bring these people down. I mean, that's my life. And that's really what I am, is an investigator who secondarily is super angry because the enemy's doing all this out in the open, and it's getting worse by the minute, and we're losing our country, we're losing due process, we're losing our civilization, we're losing our families, we're losing our health. I mean, we are under the new world order that comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And if the devil doesn't exist, folks, it does in the new world order. One way or another. I mean, I've studied these people. They run from evil to downright channeling Satan. The best analogy would be the fifth element. And there's this planetoid approaching the Earth, and they say, well, what's its plan? It wants to take over. And it's like, no, it's going to kill everybody. It wants death. And basically the New World Order is like in the fifth element, and it's working through people like Zod, or Zorg. I guess it's the weapons dealer, Zorg. And Zorg's going to be destroyed as well whenever this system comes into place. And that's really what it comes down to. And, of course, only love of life and of creation and of God's creation can counter the destroyer. And I just do not have any better way to describe it to you, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're facing. And I get chills every time I think about it because I just absolutely hate myself and get so angry at myself because I don't have the intellect or the strength to move the levers to wake people up and unlock their minds. And I'm one of the best there is, and I'm not very good at all. So all of you don't have to feel like you're going to save the world because I know how you feel inside. You want to think of the perfect plan or the best way to turn this around or some magic silver bullet. It doesn't exist. You've got to just get on your knees to God and then ask God to lead, God, and direct you to have discernment to know how to counter this evil. And I'm telling you, running to the hills is not the way to do it. If you've got the means, it's good to have a fallback position. And it's good to get your children out of Babylon, which is very hard to do with the smartphones and the whole culture and the whole system. But you, the men and the women who are warriors as well in this culture, warriors for family, warriors for justice, you're going to have to engage hardcore. And believe me, down the road, those of you that just haven't found the motivation, you're going to find the motivation because I'm telling you, society is degenerating, it's unraveling, and it's accelerating. And it is going to get bad. It is going to get extremely, extremely, extremely bad. And if we don't watch it, the globalists are going to start a major war. Could be thermonuclear. Could be biological. I don't know what the Russians are going to do. It has all the telltale signs, all the earmarks. And the head of Saudi intelligence said we're going to, 3 months ago, or it was actually August, 4 or 5 months ago, we're going to start bombing leading up to the Olympics. And we're going to bomb your Olympics. It'll cost you tens of billions of dollars and destabilize Russia. And now they're talking about Olympic athletes not going to Russia. That we knew that was coming. See, how do you know a false flag? Well, Russia has nothing to gain from this. Putin's extremely popular. He can do whatever he wants. He's involved in obvious power plays, but is trying to suppress corrupt elements. They're paying people to get married. They're having mass weddings, saying have children. We don't want to die under eugenics. I mean, this is in the Russian news. They're talking about the New World Order. Their news talks about cancer viruses and Western vaccines. I mean, they know. The Russians are listening, by the way, to this show. What's incredible is that we are actually influencing the Russians. And I've confirmed that years ago. And I'm not trying to sit here and brag, folks. Believe me, the NSA and everybody knows that stuff. Look at how much I'm able to influence the military and special warfare people because they hear my show. They know I'm saying stuff that's true. They've experienced it. They know they're being ordered to train and arm al-Qaeda in the Middle East. They're very upset. It's not hard to be a leader. I'm just here saying this is going on. I'm one of the few that will actually do it. It's now all coming out in the mainstream. And so I've got the U.S. military listening. I've got the Russian government listening. I've got the Japanese government listening. I've had like the #3 in the Japanese government on, saying he's a listener, and people in Japan in the Diet are listeners in their Congress. I'm not bragging. Believe me, I don't want this position. I'm worldly, folks. I want to go to a football game. I want to go eat a big steak. I want to drink beer. I want to go to the beach. But I can't get any of this stuff out of my mind. I can't get this mission out of my mind because this is everything, people. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do with the responsibility I've got. But I want to thank you, the listeners, for all your support and your prayers over the years because we couldn't have gotten to this point without you and without your moral and spiritual and financial support. So God bless you all. And all the people who've helped us in the real media. Matt Drudge of DrudgeReport.com. People like George Norrie at Coast to Coast AM. You can say what you want about some of the stuff they cover. They also cover hardcore issues, and they were key in helping us get our transmission out worldwide. And all the countless others. That's why even though people attack me, like Glenn Beck and others, I will turn the other cheek because he does so much good work. And since I've done that, they've stopped attacking me. And that's good because Glenn Beck knows his children have no future if we don't beat this. I don't think Glenn Beck is bad at his core. He's a smart guy. And he's gotten more hardcore, and that's all I wanted. Stop denying all this stuff's going on. It is going on. And I don't want to fight with anybody. Folks, this is what this comes down to. Do you want to have a civilization and a future and justice and a good future for your children? Do you like living under the New World Order? Are things getting better or worse under the New World Order? The New World Order is real. It's out in the open now. You've just got to admit it's there, do your own research, discover I'm telling you the truth, and then literally don't support globalist stores, operations, corporations. Be aggressive with the system. Have the fire of leadership in your belly and your eyes. Run for governor, run for mayor, run for state senate, run for legislature, run for water board. Get in there, get the intel, expose the fraud. Don't bow to people trying to buy you out. Don't bow to people whining and dining you. Don't submit. Be a leader. Save civilization. It's now time to get extremely aggressive in this fight, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm telling you, 2014 is the year that the globalists, who are a decade plus behind, but who are in partial control of the planet right now, are trying to get full control. And it's like the Nazis being pushed back under D-Day and then counter-striking at the Battle of the Bulge. 2014 is when the enemy is going to throw everything they've got at us, okay? I'm telling you. This is it. They're going to throw everything they've got at humanity worldwide. They're going to bankrupt economies, devalue currencies, wage war on families, release weaponized flu, weaponized bacteria, weaponized you name it. I mean, you can just, it's already going on, by the way. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the year to decide where you stand and what you're going to do. It's that simple. Now, I was talking about how the mainstream media doesn't matter anymore because they've been so exposed. We're going to play this clip later. How long is the actual short part? It's a 6-minute clip. I want to just play the selection of it, or where he actually talks about it. And the host of the Young Turks, he's been on the show before. I want to get him back on. Cenk Uygur is how you pronounce it. I don't watch their show a lot. The point is he's a smart guy. He poses as a liberal. I think he is a liberal at heart, but he knows the system's authoritarian. He's funded by Al Gore's network that got sold to Al Jazeera. But he has told the truth over and over again about evil stuff, like Dylan Ratigan, who has a conscience. There is no left and right. There's a global banking cartel strip mining and extracting us to make us slaves. Dylan Ratigan, I'd paraphrase his quote there, basically word for word. Cenk says the same thing. And he's now come out and said former MSNBC host told not to warn public about Fukushima because the official government position is that it's safe. That's his quote. He was told by the head of the network, amongst other things, don't criticize Obama in these wars. Don't say both parties are run by corporate interest. He said that before. And now don't talk about Fukushima. Yeah, no kidding. It turned out that the TEPCO and others, the Japanese government lied about radiation and the deaths. And now the EPA, raised the radiation levels to say what was safe so that they could continue to sell the milk on the store shelves. And they're covering it up, ladies and gentlemen. It's really bad. And former MSNBC host was told not to warn the public about the danger posed by a meltdown at the Fukushima nuclear plant during his time as a host at the cable network. Here's the quote. I was on MSNBC at the time when this happened. Don't trust what the Japanese government is saying. They will say, trust what the electric power company is saying. Go, 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 get out of here. Get as far away as that plant as you can. It's literally a core meltdown. Yep. And they always don't want people to panic. So they were always like, oh, it's going to be okay. I'm like, you're crazy, man. Don't be anywhere near that reactor. And I remember at the time, of course, not at the Young Turks, but on cable news, people were like, hey, Cenk, I don't know that you want to say that because the official government position is that it's safe. Oh, it's the official government position. Now go explain that to the people who served on the USS Ronald Reagan. And yeah, that's the issue, is that it is now killing the U.S. Navy people that were there putting water on it so it didn't fully continue to melt down valiantly. You never even heard in the news that our sailors were valiant because, oh, that's no big deal to do that. Why, people like Ann Coulter say the Japanese ought to pay. They ought to be thankful. Radiation's good for you. And there are studies that show very low amounts of certain types of radiation and ambient isotopes might stimulate immune system and have some health effects. But you get large amounts and of this type, I mean, You're going to get thyroid cancer. You're going to get lung cancer. Your kidneys are going to fail. That's where it precipitates out. I mean, this is really bad stuff. And we know that's what's happening. And the animals are dying in the area. I mean, if you give fluoridated water to cows and horses, they do this in cities, they die in a year. And vets will tell them, get them off fluoride water. It's the same deal. This is what we're drinking, ladies and gentlemen. It's just the horses and stuff can't handle as much. So we've got seals, you name it, all these Arctic animals that eat fish and things that are at the top of the food chain that have precipitated all these radioactive isotopes. In Alaska, in Western Canada, things are dying everywhere. Now a giant mass of this garbage is hitting our coastline. Now coming up, here's some of the other news we've got. Connecticut gun owners rush to register weapons. And then after you register them, they will confiscate them. Here's another story. Fewest police deaths by firearms since 1887. Associated Press, the lowest level since the Wild Wild West that actually had a low level of shootings. The movies aren't accurate. Or they show events where shootings happen, but people are very polite because everybody had guns. And the reason the studies are showing that there's less police deaths aren't all the militarization and shoot citizens for no reason because you're so paranoid. It's because gun ownership's exploded, and the carjackers and the criminals are all running for their lives, except in places like Chicago and Newark, where they've banned the guns, they have record carjackings. Duh, because the average slave won't carry a gun. Olympic athletes concerned after Russian bombings. And again, the Saudi government said, through their official head of intelligence in Russia, the head of intelligence they sent there, Prince Bandar, that we're going to activate al-Qaeda forces, and we're going to bomb leading up to the Olympics, and we're going to bomb the Olympics. Meanwhile, our media, I have the articles here, is like, we've got to take your rights away and have checkpoints because see the bombings in Russia? And literally the criminals that run our government are literally with the CIA elements and the Saudis are activating these groups on record that they run. It's on record the State Department has pumped billions in the last few decades into the Caucasus, into the underbelly of Russia, into southern Russia, other areas, even out into eastern Russia, bordering China. To fund radical Islam to attack the country. That's a fact. Now, again, if this was happening when Putin was facing re-election and it was an apartment building that blew up, 3 days before the election, he can bomb Chechnya or whatever, they caught Russian security forces with the hexagen bombs. And they said, oh, it's a drill when the Moscow police caught them. It was a suburb of Moscow. The point is that looks like a false flag in 1999, and I'll tell you it's one. But there are constant bombings and police shootings and low-intensity combat stuff going on with real al-Qaeda forces. And this is not what Russia wants. They want to make billions off this. They need the money. They want the prestige. They want to advertise Russia as a center of investment. This will cost them hundreds of billions of dollars in bad PR. And Russian news is pointing out these groups are run by the West, and they told them. Again, in August, the Saudis said, we're going to activate al-Qaeda if you don't stop defending Assad in Syria. That's how we're going to attack you. Do you understand? And Russia has said, if you do that, there will be reprisals. Now, we don't know what that's going to be. I could ask Steve Quayle. He's a smart guy, what he thinks. We could open the phones up later for military people. But I know they keep even high-level colonels and folks compartmentalized. Generals are compartmentalized on stuff like this, unless it's their area of expertise. That's how we can say our military's involved funding al-Qaeda, but 99.9999999% of the military isn't involved. They'll have people doing honorable things right next to people doing bad things. And they use the black world, the dark world, the secret world, to be able to say, oh, it's for security to carry out operations, which is true, but it's also the perfect medium for tyranny to grow. Now, speaking of Fukushima, shifting gears back into that, here's that clip of the young Turks saying at MSNBC they were told, the truth is run away from the reactor. That's what we're being told, but the public's not being told that. Here it is.
I said, don't trust what the Japanese government is saying. Don't trust what the electric power company is saying. Go, get out of there, right? Get as far away from that plant as you can. It's literally a core meltdown. And they don't want people to panic, so they're always like, oh, it's going to be okay. We'll set up I forget if it was a 20 or a 60 mile perimeter, something along those lines. Like, you're crazy, man. Don't be anywhere near that reactor.
And he goes on and on. The full video's up on Infowars.com, and it's Cenk Uygur. I'm not Uyghur. I'm not pronouncing it wrong on purpose. I only cover his stuff like once a month or something. So every time I'm looking at it, how do you say it again? Jink Uyghur. There you go. I'm working on this. I'm sorry. I don't speak Arabic very good. I have trouble with Russian words. You know, they sound cool. Volgrad. That's the name of the barbarian king. King Volgrad. Volgarg. However, the point is, we're going to be back, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, get your nascent iodine survival shield at InfoWarsLife.com from all the research and doctors we've talked to. That's what I'm using for my family. It's amazing. InfoWarsLife.com. And we also have the fluoride shield that has it in there as well, but it's double the size. And we have Steve Quayle, who hadn't been on a couple of years, joining us to break down all these different reports that are coming out, some of them mainstream news, about preparations for economic collapse, martial law. Highway checkpoints now forcibly taking DNA. First it was intimidating people. Now they're just ordering it. It's martial law being incrementally brought in. We're going to get his trends of 2014 and where Steve thinks things are going coming up in the next segment. But looking at Russia, they've now had, 3 bombings and shootings and other things that are happening with real al-Qaeda attacking civilian soft targets, and this has been to destabilize the Olympics. And the globalists think we're so dumb. The Saudis said back in August, their head of intelligence, Prince Bandar, that we will activate al-Qaeda forces to attack the lead-up and the Olympics itself. And then it all starts happening. They are the prime suspects. I mean, when you say, I'm going to come over to your house and shoot you in the head, Bob, and then the next day, Bob's found shot dead in his house. I mean, who's the suspect? If I was to say on air, I'm going to go over to my neighbor Bob's house, hypothetical. I don't have a neighbor named Bob. And before the media picks this up and says something serious, and comes over and then, kills the person. If I was to do that, I would be the prime suspect. So that's what's going on here. But meanwhile, I told you this was coming for a long time. And now they're doing it. They have this whole data mining NSA system at the airport, which they're still going to drag you aside sometimes and grope your genitals and do all that. But they engage in the social conditioning of the groping and the rest of it and the body scanning to make you then just want to submit to having all your data scanned and controlled in the technocracy. So you opt into the NSA grid. And so now the headline is, can robots better spot terrorists at airports? Well, the truth is they're going to keep the TSA, and it's going to end up being a police squad that drags you off when you go through security perimeters. And when you go through, gates close, so no one will even see you disappear. So they're going to turn them into actual prisons, and that's all being announced. But this is being sold as a reform of the TSA. And again, I told you this a decade ago because they were on record that this was the plan. So continuing, can robots better spot terrorists at airports? And it says next to have their jobs automated, airport security screeners. Now, again, I'm on record telling you how this psychology game is going to work. And I'm not bragging, saying, hey, I'm so smart. I'm saying this is how they do everything. They bring in new layers of control, but claim it's going to reform it. Oh, you go through and you scan, and then we have all your data, and we track you before you get to the airport, your job, what you buy, what you do, what your preferences are, but that's not spying on you. It's just totally spying on you. And then you opt into this to just have to swipe your card and talk to one TSA person, and you go right through, and it's totally easy and all wonderful. Isn't that just great? But then they leave the third layer of security, which is really the first layer, the TSA, the body scanners, the groping, that still all stays there. And even if you are a trusted traveler, oh, we still need to shunt you off to do it. But now you're trusted. Now you're part of the club. You know this mousetrap. You've gotten cheese off it 100 times. But this one time it's actually locked and loaded. The spring's been pulled and it slams down on your little head, breaking your neck. And that's how they're setting it up. You go through, go through the security door. It closes. People don't see what's going on. Now you're in there with them. Now you go out the door. The predators drag you off. This is in the future. And then everybody else doesn't get upset and doesn't see you being put on the train. It'll actually be a truck with a bag over your head. You understand? And I'm telling you, that's what this is designed to do. This is all social engineering done incrementally. I want to cover the waterfront, but I remember reading books in the mid-90s written by Quayle that talked about splicing humans with animals and nanotech and weaponized flu and world government and the globalists funding Al-Qaeda and all this stuff. And I'm like, this guy is really out there. But then over the years, I look back on how much of what he's talked about coming true. There's a real paradox, though. And it's that as we fight to stop the New World Order from fully being able to take over and start all these wars, I mean, we got the military to stand up and say no to the expansion of the Syria war that probably would have led to war with Russia. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs went and told Obama no. So huge positive things are happening. We can get a reprieve, I believe. But we've been so close with the missing nukes out of Dyess Air Force Base. And you notice all the nuke firings that happened right after that of the top general, the number 2 general, the top admiral. Lindsey Graham comes out hours after and says a nuke could blow up Charleston, South Carolina. All of this stuff is happening. And listen, I just know my source was real, didn't know why the nukes were being unearthed. They were hidden there, weren't supposed to be there since the 80s, since the SALT Treaty. And then, or was it START, I forget, and being shipped out to the East Coast. I mean, it's those type of things where whistleblowers don't have anybody to go to. So they go to Steve Quayle, they go to Alex Jones, they go to the Northeast Intelligence Network. And I get told by Secret Service people that are currently in, a lot of the things I hear from these other sources are really going on. And they could set off nukes anytime to bring in martial law. They could release a super plague, which you already see some of them out there. They could do any of this. And their whole agenda is stalling like Hitler in the Russian mud in Barbarossa, in Operation Barbarossa in the 1940s, like 1943, 44, when it began to totally fail there in Leningrad. That's where the globalists are right now, to use that analogy. And they are going to pull out the stops. Now, again, it's not even our government. It's criminal elements that play governments off against each other. The globalists have elements in the Chinese government, the Russian government, the U.S. government. And then they play the nations off against each other to bring about the outcome of their world government. And that's why it's on record that criminal elements of our government are funding Al-Qaeda in Chechnya, in other areas, to bomb Volgograd, to bomb the Olympics. The head of Saudi intelligence said they would do that in August if they didn't stop supporting Assad. So huge geopolitical things are happening. And you've got market crash in the works. A canary may have just keeled over. That's on Infowars.com with top analysts saying that. Is America about to reach a breaking point? Anger grows as unemployment benefits cut. Absolutely. Well, this country is in a depression. Things are unraveling fast, but it's worldwide. The domestic drone program for targeting U.S. citizens is being announced, something we got made fun of years ago. Steve Quayle first. NSA has complete control of your iPhone. Can it activate your microphone and camera? That's being now announced, mainstream news. Our government has weaponized the internet. Here's how they did it. Wired Magazine told you that. I called it that a decade ago. Weaponized against us, ladies and gentlemen. So Steve Quayle will join us at least until the bottom of the next hour to go over this entire grid and who the different power blocks are and where he sees them going. But it's funny, when I wanted to get him on about a week ago, when we talked to him, he first said, I want to go on about basically about the same topics, about the domestic control grid, the foreign mercenary troops, the InfraGard systems, how MSNBC is preparing. This is what came out of some Secret Service contacts that I confirmed 2 years ago. Race war. And that's why MSNBC and CNN are like, you know, whites are the devil, go after them, they're evil. It's okay to call, people crackers, because they want us fighting with each other when all hell breaks loose. The question is, can that be averted with the dollar bubble that's gyrating out of control? It's all coming to a head in 2014, and I don't know the time frames here. But every analyst I talk to says the world has never been in more danger. So Steve Quayle, again, will join us. Let me tell you a few things about Steve Quayle. Steve Quayle is a nationally known radio host and Survive to Thrive and Coast to Coast. He's also a photographer, a best-selling author, filmmaker. He wrote Breathe No Evil, a primer for understanding bioterrorism in '96. He's a former editor of Survival Quest and Security and Survival Chronicles. And the following are some of the more dramatic events Quayle identified long before the mainstream news even had a clue. The reason I'm going to read this is I remember hearing him say and reading him write much of what I'm just looking at here today. Stated in 97 that the following year would bring unprecedented temperatures approaching 130. By June of 98, India hit 129. Declared 1 year prior to the microburst that touched down in the Root National Forest near Steamboat Springs, Colorado, would see winds approaching 50 miles an hour. And then later it happened. And then he talked about the big caldera volcano that they're now mainstream news saying could blow any time. That would basically kill everybody in North America. I mean, this is all just wild stuff, but he said it first. He, of course, was the first to go public with red mercury, a transmutated element that makes softball-sized neutron weapons feasible. Quayle also spelled out in great detail prior to Russian General Alexander Lebed's statement confirming that there were 100 suitcase nuclear weapons missing. At inception, Quayle warned about the spread of new waterborne pathogens and mutations occurring in Earth's oceans due to excreted pharmaceuticals from human waste. Quayle detailed the remarkable accuracy, the possession of weapons of mass destruction that Libya, Iran, Iraq, North Korea, Syria, and Cuba possess. And that's what I've been told by high-level special warfare people, that they've all got weapons. Quayle has stated several years that U.S. would eventually have to occupy Saudi Arabia since they joined the anti-U.S. Confederation. Notice now they're attacking Russia as well. And he now joins us to break all this down. Steve, that's a long intro, but I wanted to do that because you and others, I believe, have helped avert stuff getting a lot worse before. But then when we're able to get the word out to the military and people inside who aren't bad, and then they leak info, by the grace of God, we're able to get a reprieve. The naysayers say, oh, see, all this bad stuff didn't happen. Look at all the incredible stuff that's happened. Almost World War III with the Russians in 2008 in Georgia. Russia threatening to nuke Western Europe last week. The Chinese president saying prepare for war. The globalists trying to stir them up. Our government funding al-Qaeda. All the insane things that are happening, and we're here trying to hold the gates back from the enemy battering ram, and the establishment media wonks are saying, go back to sleep, open the gates. Nothing's bad. You know, if the gates do fall, Steve, man, I really feel sorry for all these idiots because they have no idea what's coming down. Steve, thank you for joining us. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, thank you so much. The more they lie, the more people die. And one of the things that, by the grace of God, I've tried to do and that you've been doing is warning. And what people have got to understand in any covert operation, when there is exposure, there's immediate cancellation. And I believe that when you went public with the whole nuclear story, I followed that. And again, that was the most recent time. Several years before that, there were 29 nukes ready to take out 29 cities in America, and some amazing people from your area in department or area of the military that most people don't even know exist, diffused those. That was when, if you remember, Iran was making the bragging about literally the West was going to perish in 29 of our cities. So what we've tried to do and what you've done exceptionally well is educate. But as we're going on the radio today, we're right now where we told everybody we would be. You're getting your sources, I get my sources, and God bless every one of you that brave men and women in the military and law enforcement and intelligence community that speak up and stand up. Because if we were to define today's show, it's freedom's gone by. No longer as Alex Jones or Steve Quayle, we're not fearmongers. We declare the truth. All of the articles coming out in the mainstream is being ordered to hide this, hide that. That's how they work their evil. That's how they work their death. I'm extremely concerned for Texas, Alex, because as I watch the spread of what I would call biologically engineered pathogenic weapons, it seems like the South is the target zone, target area. And one of the great, if you will, dichotomies to me is that Texas has been under weather warfare. You can see the HARP radio frequency weapons that are being used against Texas. Now you guys have got the variations of the different lose people in your own family. One of them, I guess, passed away, and the other one hasn't. So now, is fighting for his life. So we're in a position where I think everything that can happen, that we've warned about, will happen, and we're going right into the middle of the matrix. Now, people have got to understand that they can either submit to the fear and denial, or they can act and take action. I'd say that we're now experiencing in the Fukushima probably the greatest control of one of the most deadly and dangerous events to take place. And I'm on record as stating, I make no apologies for it, Fukushima was not a natural event, nor was the earthquake that initiated it, nor were the beams going into the reactor from above it. That was on YouTube. One of the problems in being ahead of time is nobody believes you at that time. And then when we arrive at the time, how do we take them, Alex, from where you've warned and you've warned and warned and warned, we've warned and warned and warned, they've scorned and scorned and scorned. We try and do our best to get them to prepare, and then ultimately and I say this, all of their plans, all of their designs are in motion. We're talking about that. You and I have quoted until we're blue in the face all of the quotations from the globalists and the elite that they want to take the world's population down 90%.
That's right. Stay there, Steve. I'm giving you the floor when we come back to break down geopolitically what's happening domestically, and what your key intel is about economic collapse, what the globalists are planning. Stay with us. It had to be 4 or 5 years ago, he said, look, they're going around GPS marking everybody's front doors for drones as one of the reasons, but also for SWAT teams. And I said, that fits into how they operate. But about 2 years after, and people really criticized Steve for that, it turned out indeed that was true. And it's way beyond that. Everything's being tracked. Everything's being controlled. The government is just run by globalists, but there's still good people in the government. So we are just in an incredible crossroads. This is a short segment, 6 minutes long, Steve. 18-minute segment coming up after that. But get into geopolitically what's happening. I want to pick your brain about the Middle East, funding al-Qaeda, Syria, what's happening with the bombings in Russia, what you think's behind that, what your intel is, and then your big story, this mystery illness killing people all over the country. They're saying it's flu. I've gone and talked to the doctors and gotten the name. It's staph and strep and basically superbugs, but they're covering it up. Media won't cover it. There's just so much to talk about, but let me just throw out a few of the questions. What's your intel geopolitically, Middle East / Russia / China, with the Chinese president coming out yesterday and saying their main mission is to prepare for war?
Well, Alex, I think that's one of the most critical issues. I can say two things in the mind of the Chinese are ready to go. I have a source, very well placed, and he asked a bunch of his flight students who are training Chinese pilots how to fly. He said, what will you do about the Senkaku Islands? And they said, we will take Japan. And unless people understand, Unit 731 was a biological weapons program of the Japanese government under Dr. Ishii, which was very similar to Operation Paperclip. We took in all the Japanese scientists that were involved in chemical and biological warfare, and also Nanking, the famous rape of Nanking. So there is a virulent hatred between the Chinese and Japanese. Japan is ready to go off the brink and the deep end financially. They're printing money. So geopolitically, what you're seeing is China basically is going to control the entire South China Sea. And we've already prepared. We're moving stuff to Guam and everything. But what's sad is the United States, under this present entity, has displaced probably 200 of our best military leaders. And I want to make a statement. A lot of people get mad when I say stuff ahead of time, and then they go out and do their best, including Northcom, to disparage and do everything they can to try and take away from the validity.
No, you said there was a purge going on 4 years ago.
Yep. And the deal is that what really is troubling, and this is the word I've been preaching. I haven't veered from it, Alex. You know that is that before America is destroyed by the Russians and the Chinese, the sins of America's leaders and the sins of the people are going to be made known. What have we seen? We've seen everything. You just detail it.
You've been saying that for 15, 16 years as a mantra, and it is all coming out now.
It is. and the thing that the positioning of nuclear assets and the betrayal. I asked some of my best sources, you can validate this and verify it. I asked, to what degree do the Chinese possess our most top secret technology? And the exact words were, Steve, they have everything. There's only two exceptions where there's still a little bit of control, and that's some of the electrogravitic, the triangular shaped TR3s, TR4s, and stuff like that, and Stargate technology. And we won't go into that today because there's too much immediate stuff. But see, Alex, the problem is when people can't or won't, or because they're too frightened. Everybody tells me I scare people. I say that the best answer to fear is the truth. That's what you based on. That's everything you do and everything I do and we do, and those of us who are in this world do. But what's hard to get people to understand is that if you give the game plan, then you can teach the people what to look for. So we're going to talk today about all that. I'm really concerned with the situation in Saudi Arabia. You detail Prince Bandar's basically threat. There's rumors out there beyond just the crazy, websites. There's genuine movement of Russian special forces into the Saudi Arabian theater. When I said that we'll occupy Saudi Arabia, that will come to pass. Saudi Arabia already has nuclear weapons. I've talked to Air Force guys that have guarded them. So
No, I know, and that even came out now. We said that years ago because I was told that by my high-level sources that Iran's got the nukes and that Saudi Arabia has them. Stay there. I want to come back after this quick break and get into that and how you think the Russians are going to respond. And do you think the Russians staged these bombings, or do you think the Saudis who said they would did it? Well, they stand to gain by trying to discredit the Olympics to get back at Putin. I see no reason the Russians would do this. More bombings today, more shootings. It is amazing. And the globalists have al-Qaeda sleeper cells here as well that they run. We'll be right back. I want to just be honest with everybody. I've held back over the years a lot of stuff that I know just because I personally don't think people are ready to hear it. And the truth is almost discrediting because it's so bizarre. Truth is stranger than fiction. But I'm also seeing a lot of really good things happen. So I believe we can have a reprieve, but I'm going to be honest with you. I have never had a greater feeling of beyond dread, just sadness over everything I see happening, but also at a gut level. And the office has learned to see this around here. I told them the day before the fake bin Laden deal, I said, I have a horrible feeling something really bad's about to happen. And so many other countless times. The day before Sandy Hook, I was pacing around the office, totally upset. And I said, something bad's about to happen. And it's not just that there's bad things happening constantly around the world. It's that it's a major enemy push. And that if we fail that test, they're going to go to the next level. We've been passing a lot of the tests against evil. The problem is that we've been failing a lot of them as well. And the enemy is not in a good position at many levels, but it is in a good position at others because the evil is so over the top. And you've got to understand, it is a dimensional evil, just like the Bible says. It's not Russia, it's not America, it's not China, it's not Iran. It's evil people working who all basically have the same spirit, the same programming, whatever you want to call it. It's like a breed of horses, are known for being strong or known for fast or known for mean or known for being lazy. It's like these globalists are all different races, colors, and creeds, but they have the same mind. They work the same. We're going to go to Steve and get his take on that and to continue with the missing nukes. Because, listen, I almost didn't go on air with that nuke story because it was so credible and it came from such an incredible source. And I've never been able to talk to that source again. And I can't say too much without giving away who they are. But we've been unable to speak to them. I'll just leave it at that. And I knew media, if they picked it up, that they had been given disinfo, but they saw this happen. But if the media ignored it, then not only was what he saw real nukes being transferred out with no paperwork, but that it was part of what our other sources said it was. And all hell broke loose, ladies and gentlemen. With Lindsey Graham coming out that night in a speech that was in CBS News saying a nuke could blow up the very harbor where we were told the stuff was sent. where they, by the way, keep U.S. nukes already. A key special forces command base, which is known to be there, but it's much larger than what is publicly said. I'll just leave it at that. And I'm going to go to Steve here in a moment. It's just that then the number 1, number 2, number 3 nuke generals and admirals were all fired. It goes on and on. There's the headline. Graham, nukes in hands of terrorists could result in bomb coming to Charleston Harbor. Now, I still don't know from my sources what's going on. They just know this went on. And separately, let me plug one of the great products we've got. We'll go back to Steve that just ties into all this. The reason I discovered this special nascent iodine was I was talking to medical doctors, nutritionists, you name it, about what was best for my family to protect our thyroid from the ambient radiation or a nuclear attack, what's good for overall health, the fluoride conspiracy, where it's the bad halogen replacing the good halogen, iodine. But that most iodine out there is bound. That's why it's black or dark red. It's not blue, purple like this is on paper. That's because this is true atomic iodine in its atomic form. And it blocks the radioactive isotopes because it's in an atomic form and strips them out of the body. We are selling out of it. We'll have more in a few weeks, but if you want to get your order in now, this is something you take regularly but also stock up on. And then you know you're getting the highest quality product, double the strength, half the price, and supporting the transmission. We couldn't do it without you. Also, we now have the fluoride shield that is 6 different things, including the iodine, in a 2-ounce bottle, and it's only $9.95 more for double the amount. In the fluoride shield, it has the nascent iodine and 5 other key compounds on record known to strip out the fluoride and other toxins and heavy metals. So fluoride shield, the survival shield, all available at InfoWarsLife.com. or call toll-free 888-253-3139. And with Fukushima and even the MSNBC host coming out and saying we were told shut up, but it was totally deadly, we couldn't have reporters anywhere near it. The Japanese government says it's much worse than these huge disasters of the past, total meltdown. This is what the system doesn't want you to know about. So I discovered that only one company had this very small 40-year-old laboratory patented for the last decade plus, and I said, well, I want it all. And so I am the exclusive distributor of this, InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Now, I'm going to shut up the rest of the 12 minutes we've got in this segment and into the next. Steve, you've got the floor. Continue with the missing nukes, geopolitically, what you believe is happening in Russia with the Olympics and these bombings, all the different things that are happening. Again, I'm not saying that Al-Qaeda doesn't exist. The media always says, you say they don't exist. No, no, no. They work for the New World Order. And you've got just so many sources. So you've got the floor. Where is it going? The mystery illness, all of it. Steve Quayle.
Well, Alex, first of all, I want to take on the Middle East because from the day we became involved in Iraq with our overthrow of Saddam Hussein, obviously going into Libya, Gaddafi, going down the road, going down the line, this is the whole biblical context of the book of Daniel and the end times, especially with the Prince of Persia. Persia is Iran. Now, this is critical. You can tell where this is going to go simply by understanding that in the world of Ahmadinejad, and Iranians, I must make this clear, the Iranians are Aryans. They do not see themselves as Arabs. The whole Arab world is worried about this because they know different factions, Sunni, Shiites, and all the various offshoots. They are looking for the return of the Imam Mahdi. When I said that, people really flipped out 10 years ago. Man, I can't tell you how much hate mail I got on that one. But the point being is that you can predict that this is going to go. That's why all the allegiances and the alliances, in order for the Imam Mahdi, this is all I need to say, to come on the scene, there has to be a global conflagration. That is part of their eschatology. That is why you have the West now being assaulted with radical Islam. You've got the denigration of biblical Christianity, the cowards in the pulpits. You know, it's interesting because when this nation was great and strong, we still had foundational values. Now the attack on the American family, the attack on the truth, everything that stood for what we based our foundational principles on. And when people say, well, they can't do that because of the Constitution, in their mind, the Constitution's over, the Bill of Rights are over, all of the baloney that has come out of the spy agencies. Look, the American citizen, here's a simple question. American citizenry is targeted for destruction. The globalists are going to come in and plunder. They have plundered the middle class. They're going to plunder, rape, pillage. You're going to do it all. Now, that sounds really inflammatory unless you can back it up, and I can back it up, and I will back it up. I expect Vladimir Putin to make an amazing move against Saudi Arabia in the very near future. I think I know what it's going to say, but in lack of waiting for a secondary confirmation how that's going to take place, he's confronted by the same radical Islamic movement, and he knows. Now, listen, let me make something clear on terrorists. Doesn't matter what title you put on them, the Muslim Brotherhood, Egyptian Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, this, that, or the other thing. The bottom line is somebody always pays terrorists to implement a form of sabotage and foreign policy by terror and destruction. So somebody's paying these people. And the people that are paying them are almost transnational, and they're also supernatural in this case. You know, one of the things, Alex, that has been hard for me to get through to people is there is a evil spiritual element. Let's call it the devil. Let's call it what it really is. And even the secularists that want to listen to me and you and get all that data, they don't. There's a contingency out there. There's the ones on the left that say they're servants of the Illuminati, and they do worship Satan. They do believe in all the juju. They do believe in all the juju, by the way, is Swahili for devil stuff. And the thing is that they absolutely have a plan, an agenda. We've never seen Christianity come under attack. We've watched the military. That's one thing I warned about, and people wouldn't listen. Since when did the military, and I'll tell you this, the Air Force was the one that was spearheading it up to basically get rid of all Christians. Now we've got the war on Christianity. And Jesus said if the Christians lose their salt, they're going to be trodden under the foot, okay? When I pray for you, Alex, and I you probably know this, and if you don't, I want to share this. I pray for you when I pray for people globally, internationally, and sometimes I have a listening audience of 7 million.
No, I know. You pray for me on air. I really appreciate that, Steve.
Yeah, no. And I'm just saying this, though. There are intercessors that will tell me stuff that I could not have known about for one time. And look, I'm just going to leave it at this, is the danger that you and your family were in that was stopped because people who love you, Alex, and I'm one of them, who pray and intercede. Look, there are men of God in the highest ranks of the military. I'm talking real men of God. These guys are some of the most dangerous men in the world, but they do love God. On the other hand, some of the most evil and wicked men in the kingdom of hell and Satan are warring. So there's a battle going on. And I tried to get that through to people, and they thought that basically, I had too much wacky tobacco. By the way, I don't smoke. So the point is that we're in a time period now where the book of Revelation, and so Revelation of Jesus, that Jesus is the one that's telling us all this stuff's going to come. How about the NSA? How about all of the push towards the entire being able, we won't be able to buy, sell, or trade unless we take the mark of the beast. All the biometric scanning, all that stuff. So how does all this play in? All of every single issue boils around creating a global conflagration in which the false Messiah will come and bring a false peace. You can see now exactly how foreign policy is going, and whether Prince Bandar of Saudi Arabia was behind it or not, I will tell you this, that Moscow knows better than anybody due to their intelligence apparatus, just the capabilities of Saudi Arabia, separate and apart from the U.S. backing them. Now that you heard Saudi Arabia said that they felt betrayed by the entity in the White House. That's how I refer to him. Well, he has betrayed him. He betrays everyone because he believes in the return of the Mahdi. It doesn't matter what he says publicly. The tree is known by the fruit it bears. So all of the geopolitical realm is based on this. The same thing with the financial collapse. You know, we can warn, you can warn, have been for years what the plan is.
And we've been collapsing. They just keep denying. Let me throw one thing in, and I want you to get back in the financial collapse. Again, Steve Quayle joins us, syndicated radio host right now, stevequayle.com. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com. If you just tuned across the dial and are wondering what you're listening to, the UN is setting up, as you know, 10 global regions. Bible says that. 10 sub-regions per region. The UN has said, and David Rockefeller has said, and Kissinger has written publicly and said, all they need is the right global crisis, and the nations of the world will give up all their liberty and accept a one-world government. Now they're openly announcing this, and Albert Pike wrote in 1878, the head of the Illuminati, he said, we're going to have a First World War, a Second World War, to bring in the League of Nations and the UN. Then we'll have a Third World War between Christianity, Islam, with Judaism in the middle. And then out of that, Lucifer, our God, will take over. So whether the Bible's a real thing or not, the point is they are manifesting it like a science fiction book. Science fiction of 100 years ago has now become reality. So even to atheists out there, and of course I believe it to be true and know it is, even to atheists that don't get that, they have to understand by believing it, it's been manifest, and it's not us believing it that manifested as Christians. The evil ones follow the Bible closer than Christians do. They just follow it from the other perspective.
That's an amazing statement, Alex, because no one knows the devil, or the Bible, better than the devil from the standpoint that's what he tempted Jesus with when he took him up on the top of the temple. You know, bow down and worship me, and I'll give you all the power of the kingdoms of the world. Now, here's what's interesting. The same day that we had the situation that Russia gets hit, the Bakken oil train blows up, and their whole city now is going to be supposedly vacated. Remember the old statement of the Illuminists, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Also, the Russian Red Chinese troops. Now, this is the one that really fries people, and they denied it, even though I had Robert Jones on my show years ago telling that he had a relative that was sent to Moscow. The Soviet or Russian government took him in and showed him the letter that was sent by the DHS to request Russian troops to come to the United States to help in gun confiscation.
Wait, let me stop you. In NLE 09, they put out too much of the document on the FEMA side, admitting troops from 15 nations participated in civil suppression of revolts in America. They have deals with Mexico and Canada, vice versa. Our troops go into both nations. And, Steve, it was you first in the mid-'90s that said that Russians were training to go up against Americans under Northcom before the term Northcom was even public. And now in the last year, we've seen them publicly training, not there looking inside the B-1 bombers or B-2 bombers to make sure they can't take nukes under treaty. No, they're training domestically. So how is our government with attacking Russia while at the same time bringing them here?
Well, again, the idea is somebody beyond what you see as our government is calling the shots. You know, the puppeteers behind the puppets, so to speak. And what is really challenging, Alex, as you know, is to get, even though you show pictures of Russian armor, Russian Hind gunships, all of the different pictures of the troops, the training, what people have got to remember is this. There's no shortage of funds for the statement that the president made that we need another army beyond the regular military. That's why the regular military, the veterans have been decimated. They're being intentionally destroyed. And I tried to get the veterans to understand that. And I'm just one voice, but, you know, at least I've got a large microphone sometimes.
Oh, no, the number one terror threat, we broke these documents 5 years ago, is returning military. And now that's all public. And the government trains 24/7 to go after anybody who isn't going to join with Sauron.
Absolutely. And now the thing that it even gets worse, when you brought out the MIAC report, I'm sorry we got to cover so much, you know, and I get accused of talking too fast, and I tell people this openly, I said, I wish I had Alex's energy and youth, because, brother, you know, after 20-some years of this, you get tired and you get worn down, and by the grace of God, it's the people that pray for you, for me, for others, that are you know, in essence, holding up our hands like Joshua and Caleb, or whoever held up Moses' hands when the battle was against him. But what I'm saying in all this is simply this, is that there is a spiritual battle that is playing out in the physical plane. The battle is real. Behind the scenes, our military, certain factions of our military are killing each other off. It's true in the intelligence agency. The whistleblowers are being decimated. The bragging that, quote, never in the history of America that I know would a president make the statement that this one made, that he's really good at killing people. The whole drones, the Skynet, the layout of the Predator movies, and the layout of the entire, if you will, plan to subjugate the planet totally. The DNA, and that's a question I've got to ask you, Alex. Texas is kind of a dichotomy to me. I love Texas. I lived there back back and forth for a number of years, a lot of time. I lived in Irvine, and Dallas. But the thing is I guess what is troubling to me is it seems like Texas wants to implement all these strange search procedures. I know what you guys were facing when you tried to just have your constitutional rights. Why is it? I mean, it seems like...
Well, the globalists know that Texas is one of the main points that has people that might lead a resistance to take the republic back. So we are getting hit the hardest, like the main fortress. They're trying to bring us down.
Right. No, I understand that, but I don't understand why the police, who obviously listen to your show, and the powers that be that obviously know that, because obviously, Texas...
Well, when they have police attack us demonstrating and things, the Dallas police wouldn't do it. They brought in federalized sheriff's deputies who look like bouncers from clubs with their shirts hanging out to attack us. And they've got special units of evil people who'll do whatever they're told.
Okay, but Texas does understand, and you talk to enough people in Texas that the weather wars, whether the drought and the attack upon the South. By the way, if you look at where the flu, and let's just call it what it is, the bioweapons been released, it's in the South. Obviously, those aren't the most favored states in the current political climate.
Oh, look, all they do is demonize it and say that they wish the South was dead and kill Phil Robertson and anybody in the South is racist. Absolutely, because as bad as the South is with some of the things in it, it still has Christianity. People still say hi to you. People are more loving. That's what I've experienced, and they want to eradicate that and have them be a bunch of plastic trendies.
Right, and it's interesting because that's a really great word. What they want is they want automatons. They want robots, and that's where the whole point. When I wrote the book Genetic Armageddon, I just want to share with people something. Never in the history of the world has there been so much denial of the obvious. These entities, and they're a supernaturally wicked group of people who claim that they are literally of Lucifer's bloodline. You quoted Morals.
It's the Merovingians. All these royalty, all of them,
right,
have written books.
So it's fascinating to me that every action, who is it against? You can say anything about anybody in the world, no flack. You mentioned Jesus, you mentioned the word Christmas, you mentioned anything, and they have this group of trolls that climbs out of the primordial slime to attack Jesus. And I'm telling you this, there's going to be a backlash, because when you stand up for truth, you cannot stand up for truth and not absolutely come to the conclusion that Jesus is the truth. Look, it's not a religious argument anymore. It's a matter of life.
It's a fact. The evil people that have the evil fruits want to destroy real Christianity. They've tried to take it over. They've created Christianoid, plastic fake groups, infiltrating it, just like the Tea Party. They tried to infiltrate it. But they literally have a spiritual hatred, and Christians are more persecuted now than ever before. And everywhere the UN goes, whether it's Syria or Central Africa, they are murdering Christians just with total savage abandonment.
Right. One of the things that people can do, I'm always accused, I don't know if you are, but what can we do? What can we do? Well, we'll tell you what to do. You've got to get this out of your mind that there's any truth on the mainstream news media. There is no truth. You have to boycott them. You have to avoid them. And pretty soon, even it's amazing. They hate us, but they still want the last vestige of money. The idea that they're taking our DNA, they have stripped us of our dignity. God gave mankind the most amazing thing in the universe. So amazing that all of the fallen angels and Lucifer himself hated it. God said he created man in his image and likeness. So by destroying mankind, they can't obviously destroy God, but it's like a woman who gets mad at a boyfriend. She can't, get her hands around his neck.
That's right. Satan is scorned. Satan is scorned.
Yeah, so that's the hatred that is being manifested should be, even to an unbeliever, amazing, because look, what are we telling people? We're not telling people to send Johnny out and blow himself up. We're telling people, look, you've got to understand this is a spiritual battle. Now, I understand and you understand that this thing is not going to stay in the spiritual realm. But there has been a denial, and even the DHS now has compromised churches, where I literally heard, Alex, you probably know this too, that people going to home Bible studies, if they're under a mega-church, have to be fingerprinted, and they have to have their dossiers. It's why I've been against Facebook all along. You know, there are people that share the gospel.
Oh, no, they're bringing Connect systems in to spy on the kids. The churches are telling women to leave their husbands. These mega churches are satanic command bases.
Oh, well stated. Do you remember, Alex, we did a show, and this I get excited, so if I sound enthusiastic, we did a show talking about Stasi, Marcus Wolf, Yevgeny Primakov. We talked about those people that were brought in from the most notorious spy agencies to set up the very protocols and the very procedures.
And by the way, when I first heard you say that, and Al Martin, I went and dug it up in the congressional record, the $1,100,000 that Marcus Wolf was paid, the former head of the Stasi, in a 3-year contract per year to help set up Homeland Security. They literally are setting it up directly off the East German blueprint.
Yeah, let me tell you something. It's a 30-second story that will appreciate this. It's amazing. I sat with a very famous Russian, I won't use his name, and he may be dead now, a number of years ago, 10 years ago, in Reno, basically blah, 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 buying a whole lot of vodka and a whole lot of shrimp, etc. And he just looked at me and he said, and I'll do the best I can, "You Americans are so foolish." He said, "You spend trillions to fight us, and now you pay us hundreds of millions to destroy your own people." Now, that's pretty telling, Alex, 10 years ago. You know, I don't remember what my bill was, but it was a couple $1,000 bucks, but it's priceless. And I'm not saying that to brag. What I'm saying is this, is that what's happening is plain to the world, except the people that are mind-controlled zombies.
Exactly. And I have these trendies who follow the trend. They download whatever the new program is and follow it and hold on to that like a lifeboat, even though it's a lead bowling ball, taking them to the bottom of the ocean like a millstone. They will buy anything they're told. That's what a trendy is. They are people that believe the world is going to fulfill them when whatever the world is selling, you better believe is pure poison. Steve Quayle's our guest. Speak of the devil, the former CIA director has come out with a new Facebook program for neighborhoods. Leanne McAdoo went out to investigate. That's a 3-minute report coming up the next hour with Steve Quayle. Stay with us. The world is drunk on delusion and fraud. I'm not on some moral high horse, ladies and gentlemen. I feel incredibly weak. But I know, and I can feel it in my spirit, folks are praying for us. And it's just, I'm so sad. It's wearying. There's a Bible verse that with great knowledge comes great sorrow. And we just have to be honest with ourselves about the type of world we're in and where this situation is going. Steve Quayle's with us for the rest of the hour. SteveQuayle.com is his website. And he joins us right now. Steve, this is only a 5-minute segment. The long segment's coming up. And we'll continue. Well, what are some of the things that we haven't gotten into that we need to cover? A financial collapse in the next segment. I want to get into that with you and the state of that. The dollar's starting to go down right now. But what are some of the other big issues that are important?
Well, I think it's really critical, Alex, that people understand that right now we're experiencing such a convulsion in the geology of the planet. And that also is man-made. You know, in my book, and I got to give a pitch for a book I wrote because it was tough for people to grab it. In Genetic Armageddon, I go into the whole Nazi plan that was in New Schwabenland in the Antarctic, and most people think we won World War II. We really didn't, 1947. And I go into the stuff that's leading up to where we're at right now. In my book, Weather Wars, if I can just tell people this, I'm almost out of Genetic Armageddon, literally only have probably 2 to 3 dozen copies of that. Weather Wars, a couple hundred. But in those, and you've read my books and looked at them, Alex, you know I do a lot of footnoting. I do a lot of validating, just like you do. And even then, I find that people just want to shake their heads. So what's going on in the world of the manipulation of the weather is unlike anything we've ever seen before, because there's never been weather modification in full-scale war. The Russians are using it. The Chinese are using it. We're using it. We've got so many volcanoes going live. And one of the very first radio programs I did 20-some years ago, I said, you'll know in the end when the world's major volcanoes all come active at the same time. Well, that puts a lot of sulfur dioxide in the upper atmosphere. It changes the pH of the oceans. And what I postulated years ago is now happening. I said, what happens when all of the nations start using weather weapons and all these different waveforms and energy forms start interfering with each other, echoing, reverberating, bouncing off each other? And what happens to the radiation when it's being attenuated by different waveforms and also lasers, by the way? And if people look up and see the chemtrails, and that's the greatest, I guess, disappointment in my life, is that people can't equate chemtrail saturation one day to an outbreak of really severe respiratory distress the following day. I'm in Bozeman, Montana. We got sprayed the other day, and now we've got a flu up here, and we've got respiratory distress. I've been fighting it, and everybody I know has been fighting it, and they obviously email me and phone call and say, are you seeing it? It's saturation. So the point that I'm trying to make is this, in this segment, the volcanoes are critical. Isn't it interesting? The guy that's stuck on the icebreaker was one of the biggest pundits for global warming, and I think that's God's sense of humor. Global warming? Are you kidding me? And see, Henry Kissinger's statement comes into play here. They are simply the Nazis and, if you will, the globalists and / Illuminati. They are overwhelming us in all realms. And we'll get into the economy next. But what they're doing is simply super saturating our senses so we lose our balance and we lose our reference
That's
point.
right. They're bum rushing us, hitting us with everything. And if people think 2013 was big, 2014 is going to be massive. I want to get your trends for 2014, the economy, and more with Steve Quayle. Toll-free number to join us. We'll start taking calls coming up at the bottom of the hour. If you want to get lined up with your questions or your comments, wide open phones for Steve Quayle, 800-259-9231. First-time callers. 800-259-9231. His website, stevequayle.com. Find all his books and material there. An intriguing person. Every time he's on, people are amazed. The headlines. I don't want to just mention something like that last hour and say it would destroy the whole U.S. and then not have the proof. Yellowstone's volcano magma is much bigger than previously thought. Huffington Post. Chicago Sun-Times. Yellowstone supervolcano eruption could be 2,000 times Mount St. Helens. And then we've got the New York Post talking to the geologist saying it would destroy the entire United States. And we were showing people that earlier on the screen. I'm not saying this is going to go off right now. The point is that when you've got reports like this, and then the government has known this and in the past would say, shut up, don't talk about it, don't discuss it. My only point is the system is not in control. And now the volcano is becoming more active. It's rising, and geologists across the board say, they've gotten pretty good at predicting stuff. They say it's due to erupt. And they said, we don't know if that means a month or 50 years, but in the geological record, because they have the isotopes studying the last eruptions, they can tell you when things happen, meteor strikes, you name it. They're saying, basically, we're 1 second away. Now, that could be 1,000 years. But the point is it's getting more and more active every week, and they're getting freaked out. In fact, I was reading articles where geologists that have studied it, that live there, are leaving. I mean, I'm going to explain something to you, folks. There's no known time in human history, in the last 6,000 years of recorded history, when a supervolcano has gone off. And we have all these legends of civilizations that disappeared. Maybe that was it. When they do, they cause ice ages because they throw up so much dust. Krakatoa was known to have lowered world temperatures for several years. It was a small volcano. We're talking tiny compared to something like this. This is thousands of times worse. A hiccup of it. Just a hiccup would be 50, 100 times bigger than Mount St. Helens. Steve, I want to get into the economy with you, but you, again, are the first person I ever heard talk about the super caldera. I didn't even know. I mean, I knew it was volcanic, stuff like Hot Springs, Arkansas, deep down, but I didn't understand it was what they call, basically dormant, but really active, and it was political correctness to call it dormant, but it's not dormant. It's active and becoming more active because you live in that area, I know, for a long time, or at least did. I didn't ask where you live now, but how did you have the intel on that first?
Well, I basically, Alex, it's kind of interesting because I'm one of the only guys, maybe there are other people out there, I just don't know them, that have photographed it every year for 40 years. I fly it historically a couple times a year in a helicopter with thermal imaging. I know a lot of people, both behind the scenes and the ones that are quoted in the press, have talked to some of them. I don't know them personally, but I've talked to them. And so the thing that I find it's interesting, though, when the BBC, prior to the Banda Aceh earthquake, wanted to come up here and put me on camera, you'll enjoy this. I said, you guys are a waste of time. Yellowstone's not going off, but you've got a very short time to get down to basically Indonesia, because that's where the action's going to be. I will say this, that the whole, if you will, lava or magma chamber is headed more towards the south. And interestingly enough, if you if people want to go on my website, stevequayle.com, one of the most popular places on my website, Alex, is a photo of the day. And I'm like featuring Yellowstone next week to the nth degree, because over the years I've seen the change. But what most people don't understand, what affects Yellowstone, I've literally been in Montana. I live in Bozeman still, and there have been 1,000 microquakes and nothing's happened. And I'll tell you a fascinating story. People say I'm a hypocrite because I live here. And I say, listen, I have peace in my heart that Yellowstone is not going to blow, because I know quite a bit about the geology, and I know what was happening. For the record, at one point, there were Russian nukes there. They were taken out. Okay, that wasn't just a fable. That was true. And I happened to talk to the general who was under the authority to basically find him and disarm.
By the way, I mean, it even came out in mainstream news this year that they confirmed that the Russian embassy in D.C. had a nuke in it.
Yep. So the thing is Yellowstone, I'll tell you, you use the word Krakatoa. Krakatoa, the son of Krakatoa, is the one that I've written extensively about, and Sue Bradley, who's gone to be with the Lord, wrote amazing stuff about Krakatoa. But the fascinating thing is that even when you're dealing with volcanoes and the ancient myths and legends, I write about all this stuff to try and make it relevant to contemporary. They're talking about, if you will, demonic evil forces that get released. And now you're seeing people, and this is something that people should be aware of, because you're getting reports, even the Baja Mexico, of falling stars straight down, not with any type of angular trajectory, and people literally seeing these things forming into beings with wings and then disappearing. Okay, now I want to make something clear to everyone. This is not the World Weekly News we're talking about. These are eyewitness accounts coming from all over the world. And all of the ancient secrets, Alex, I remember, I quote the scripture, there's nothing that has been hidden that's not going to be revealed. The control of ancient history that tells us what holds in the future, what the future holds, has been in the hands of the Illuminati.
No, I hear you. There's a lot of stuff we don't know, and they hide all that knowledge, and there's also a lot of other craziness out there.
Let's look at the biggest threat right now. It's Cumbre Vieja, okay? The bottom line is we're seeing specific HARP signatures over Cumbre Vieja in the Canary Islands. We're seeing the New Madrid. We're seeing just massive stuff. By the way, one of the biggest magma chambers besides the Yellowstone, it goes up and down the Cascade region, okay? And Henry Gruver, an amazing...
That's right. We've been seeing earthquakes on the East Coast that haven't happened in hundreds of years at that magnitude.
Yep. Yeah, so what I'm saying is people got to pay attention to this stuff. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if this stuff interests you and you want to know the science behind it and the control behind it, I wrote a great book called Weather Wars, and I'm only pitching it, Alex, because they're so far ahead of their time that when it happens, people say, how'd you know? I have an answer for them. No one could know this unless God or his servants gave me the knowledge. I want to make it clear, okay? I'm not clairvoyant. I'm just a guy that's a researcher and an author.
You're able to look at all the documents and issues that are there, and then you connect the dots and you know are given discernment. It makes perfect sense. Now, one big issue that's come out is that the police and military are compartmentalized, but they are being trained for martial law. They are being trained for economic collapse. We know all the reasons. We know the stock markets, most companies that are in there are 100 to 1, 50 to 1, 200 to 1 price earnings ratio. It's totally insane. No one's denying that. What do you expect in the next year or so with the global stock market? Will it go to 20,000? Will it plunge to 10,000? Will they use the plunge to then bring in the bail-in and go after our bank accounts like Europe? What's coming?
Well, they're going for a bail-in like Europe, okay? That's already stated. It's already there. The bottom line is they changed the wording, Alex, in the banking laws from obviously a secured lender to an unsecured lender, which means basically if the bank's in trouble and you put your money in the bank, they have access to your money. It's no longer your money. If you look at the return that people are getting in the banking world, it's pathetic. Now, the stock market's a crapshoot. HFT, high-frequency trading, is the order of the day. The scandals, how anyone can believe that the people that are in trouble for stealing billions and trillions of dollars are going to make it possible for them to make an honest buck. You see, the point is the American middle class has just about been destroyed. The whole insurance business and what people have...
Everything is converting to a fraudulent economy, which gives the globalists total control, where they're exempt from the depression they're putting onto us, and that's it. Everything is a gamed facade at the global level, and they're trying to eradicate any form of independence because then they'll have full control.
Right, and let's talk about the FEMA camps, because you're the one that has documented it over and over and over. You remember all the crap people used to give us about that?
Yes.
Well, if you're planning on placing primarily Christians and others who are constitutionalists, freedom-loving conservatives, what happens to all their stuff? That's a question that nobody ever asks. I'll ask it, I'll deal with it, and I'll tell you it. That's what's promised to the pillagers, okay? You can watch the Viking movies on TV or A&E or wherever it's on and go, gee, that's how those guys made a living, by pillaging. That's what's promised. We've seen it. We saw it in the Louisiana situation where literally homes were ransacked. So what the disconnect, Alex, is this. They don't want just some stuff. They want all stuff. They don't want just some power. They want all power. And they want to remove any challenge to that. And that's why, since I went on talk radio, and you know this, you know that there are times in your life, Alex Jones, where something unseen saved your life, protected you, or you were at the right place at the right time instead of the wrong place at the wrong time. The people who are at the wrong place at the wrong time, we have their obituaries already. So I'm encouraging every Christian or everybody that's seeking to come to know the Lord Jesus Christ, that's a great prayer. Lord, help me be at the right place at the right time and not the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, that's another point. People are spiritually being moved and awakened that there is a force of good and evil. Look at Matt Drudge coming out and saying he learned how to pray and it's done amazing things for him in 2013. And of course, all the science shows when you truly pray, your brainwaves go up. You have high levels of creativity and empathy. There is some connection, and that's what we need to counter this evil. And it's so important. We're going to go to break, Steve. Come back and play Leanne McAdoo's report on the Stasi spy networks and get your take on that. And then in the next 30 minutes after that, we're going to take phone calls at 800-259-9231. We got Doug in Delaware, wants to talk about bank runs. Jay in Florida wants to talk about Comet Ison. Ryan in Nevada wants to talk about Afghanistan. He's an Afghan vet. Bridget, as first up, wants to talk about chemtrails and illnesses. Ben in Missouri wants to talk about the Great Awakening with Steve Quayle, our guest. Infowars.com, prisonplanet.com. Follow me on Twitter at RelAlexJones. His site, stevequayle.com. All this and more on this final transmission of 2013. My dad, a couple years ago, got approached by one of his patients from Homeland Security. Said, we want to recruit you to spy on all your patients. He said, for terrorists? They go, no, we want to know everything they're doing and want you to influence them. He thought they were coming to him because he was my dad. And I said, no, talk to the other dentist around town you know. It's InfraGard. They're expanding it. He did, and he said almost all of them got approached at their homes or at their offices, and a lot of them signed up because, like, sure, I want to help my government. It's not your government. It's Obama's private domestic army, just as big and just as strong as our military, a thing he controls. Let's go to Leanne McAdoo's report on one area of this that we're premiering here. And then we're going to get Steve Quayle's take on it. Go to break, come back with your calls with Steve Quayle. But here's that report.
It used to be if you wanted to let your neighbors know about a lost dog or even trying to sell a car, you just come to your local community board. Well, nowadays, neighborhoods are relying on Nextdoor.com. It's a social networking app. It's kind of like Facebook, but it's for just you and your neighbors. Have you heard about Nextdoor.com?
I have not heard about Nextdoor.com. Enlighten me.
Have you ever heard of it?
No, what's that?
It's basically like a Facebook, but for neighborhoods. Are you familiar with the new Neighborhood Watch? It's kind of an online neighborhood watch that's pretty big here in Austin. It's called Nextdoor. They just received $60 million of investment money from Amazon, Google, Facebook, and George Tenet's company.
George Tenet?
The former director of the CIA.
Really, I had no idea about that, and I think it's bad.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Especially with everything, like the NSA, all that stuff.
What has George Tenet got to do with me?
He's a big investor in Nextdoor.com. I mean, are you comfortable inviting him to your barbecue?
No, and it's amazing that he's working directly with Google and these big corporations.
Anytime you have, the private sector coming into things like surveillance and, postage, military, I think that's great.
I'm not going to make any judgments on it, so...
Okay.
But especially with this, pointing right in front of me, I'm not going to say anything, so... I
don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's the big issue, is that you might opt out of it, but your neighbors can sign you up for it.
Well, that's awful, and it seems to fit in with the larger pattern of us being more and more surveilled in our society.
I'm all for it. If you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about, right?
One thing, we've taken the crabby old lady in the neighborhood and put her online now. So everything and anything is out there.
So you'd be okay with the Tattle app aspect of it as long as you could use it to your advantage to target groups that you don't like?
That's absolutely correct.
First thing that comes to mind, once you got big money and big government in, it kind of takes your flex away.
Why do you need this repository for the information?
Treat me like a neighbor and not as someone that you need to watch or spy on.
Government's not going to give up power. I mean, most of us can work through adversity, but to test a man's real character, you give him power.
Well, that was pleasantly surprising. It seems like a lot of people, at least here in Austin, are quite aware that we are under massive surveillance and it's gotten out of hand. It seems like those people at least are going to be opting out of the program if they can. But what can we do to let the rest of the country know that this particular neighborhood watch may have been co-opted by the CIA?
Okay, folks, the CIA and In-Q-Tel is funding all of this. Google, Microsoft, Facebook, it's all on record. It's all a big pump and dump. Infraguard, the whole 9 yards. And again, this is about having your neighbors watch you. In a tyrannical government, they come after you because they want to control you and rob you. And these idiots go, well, I'll just go along with it. I'll be part of it. This is the creed of slaves. Steve Quayle, we've got 2 minutes till break. Your take on that report we just filed.
Well, excuse me, Alex. You stated it absolutely. This is the attitude of a slave. What's astonishing to me is how so many who enjoyed the fruits of freedom have lost any touch of reality with history to know the very thing that they're embracing. It wasn't somebody that said the West will embrace the chains that enslave them. When I hear that, I think of a slave to the system. And what I see is the robbing of everything unique in humanity. It's creativity, it's free will, and that's what it is, free will. The state becomes God. There is no God but the state, and you will do what God, the state, in parentheses, tells you to do. And that's why the early Christians had a statement, no king but Jesus, because obviously Caesar came to be and said, unless you worship me, you'll be crucified. So the point is that we're seeing now the most disgusting tattletale society. And when you see the effect of social media on taking people and arousing whatever passion, can you imagine a government agent just saying, go get this guy, he's the wrong guy? I mean,
exactly. This is so the government can find out who likes to tattle and be a little fake informant to then falsely accuse you and disappear you. This is Nazi Germany. We're going to talk about it when we come back on the other side with Steve Quayle and finish up getting into the Sazi Society. Then your calls. Stay with us. A lot of hands flying up. A lot of excited people out there. No, we'll do the show live tomorrow. We'll be here live because so much is going on. So much is happening that we have a lot of great rebroadcast. But I got a bunch of special reports we want to premiere, a lot of things going on. So we'll be live, Lord willing, here tomorrow. And, I could sit here and laugh and joke around a little bit because we really do have to have trust in God and laugh when we can. We can't let this get us too down. It's just that evil is being released all over. Here's a few articles that we're going to get. Any other points Steve Quayle wants to make, and then take phone calls for Steve, who's patiently been with us here today. Here it is out of French news agency, AFP. Italian court overturns pedophile conviction as 11-year-old in love. So in Italy now, a 60-year-old man wants to trick your son, your 11-year-old. Let me tell you, I got an 11-year-old son. Any 60-year-old man takes him off and does something, you're not going to need to go to court, buddy. I'll just tell you right now. I mean, this is their plan. And I told you, the UN has announced NAMBLA is good. That's what it all is, the sexualization of kids in school and jostling elders. Help the 5-year-old masturbate. That creepy old witch. I mean, these people are control freaks. They want power over you and your kids. Told you they would legalize it. There it is. They have big medical associations coming out and saying it's wonderful. What's wonderful is what I'm going to do to your teeth and your nose and then your head. And I'm sorry, you touch my kids, I am going to, if you don't get convicted and go to jail, I am going to break your jaw right before I slam your head in the concrete till your brains are all over the ground. And I don't usually talk like that, folks, but that's a normal statement there, okay? Now, let's continue here. NBC's chief medical editor forced her kids to sign up for Obamacare as their patriotic duty. I mean, this is the type of garbage that's going on. Here's another one. People who are religious or spiritual have thicker brains, which could protect them against depression. The cortex is thicker or has more cells and more connection in people that are religious. That's right. And religious experience is associated with the highest brain waves of rapture, of literature, of art. Ludwig von Beethoven would literally, he believed, could feel the universe and God's spirit flowing through him. Einstein said God does not play dice with creation. You cannot be a genius and not know that there's a spiritual realm and something else going on you resonate with. The problem is there are people that are geniuses who serve the Dark Lord. And that's what you've got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is that archetype of the all-seeing fiery eye, wreathed in flame. You know of what I speak. And we're here with Steve Quayle, but I was just mentioning that earlier, and Chris Jordan said, what, you didn't see that in your juice stack? They call that a stack of news they dig up and things I may not have seen. And no, I didn't, so I'm glad he brought that to my attention. Here's one more. Woman suing over amputation following arrest. I mean, now you go to the police and get roughed up so bad they cut your arm off. And this, I mean, it's getting creepy. It is getting so creepy. And by the way, record low number of police being killed since they started recording it in 1881. That's in the Associated Press today. And they admit in the internal studies that we've gotten from the Justice Department, because they're available, he's got to dig through them, that they admit it's gun ownership. The police all know. That's why most police groups are pro-gun, even though their bosses aren't, and they're demoting them if they stand up for America. I get that most police are actually good people. I'm not kissing your butt. They're trying to corrupt you. They're trying to turn you into paramilitary thugs. They're trying to sick you on the Tea Party and the Liberty Movement. But now you're starting to wake up, and the military is really awake. And I want to get Steve Quayle's take on that in a moment and then go to your phone calls. But briefly, we're listener supported, and we try to offer the very best information warfare tools to wake people up. You can get into the new year 5.3 months free. That's the discount off the year membership. For $39.95, you can get 5 months free off the regular price. So you pay for 6+ months, and it's a 5.3 months free you get. So 6+ months, and you then get a big discount. And each membership is 11 memberships. Create an original username and passcode that's unique to the site, and then you can share it with friends and family so that they can go watch the nightly news, see higher quality podcasts, The Day Show, all my films. And that's what supports this operation. We could have done it without you. Please buy your war bonds in the InfoWar, prisonplanet.tv. And then lastly, the InfoWars magazine has sold out most issues. It's been very successful. I've done it to have it be at cost to reach the maximum number of people. And we sell it in bulk in groups of 10 up to 100. I actually need a copy of that. Will you guys run me one? And I know we have a video of it, but I want to actually show the TV viewers watching on prisonplanet.tv. Radio listeners can go to Infowars.com. We have Obama becoming a dictator issue, and it exposes all the tyranny in the police state and the latest on that. Very important issue. But the subscriptions have been successful, But I think it's cost prohibitive, even at $39.95, including the 12 shipping charges, to sell it at cost. I still think it's cost prohibitive. What's been way more successful is selling them in bulk so you can get them and hand them out to friends and family when and where you want. So this is the last month you can sign up in the next year to get a subscription, because a year from now, we are not going to offer subscriptions anymore. We're going to honor the year of subscriptions, and we're going to continue on with the digital version and the hard copy version in mass. We're going to email out on Monday the digital version for everybody signed up at Infowars.com/newsletter. But it's a world-class magazine, and it's a hard copy you can give people. And the reason we're doing this is if I get rid of subscriptions, I can lower the price so much on the bulk that I can even lower it more in the bulk. So if you want to get the next year of this, this is your 1 month, January 2014, that you can do it. And on the back, it has a double cover, InfoWars Magazine 1984, bringing in the new year that we're in, 1984, basically. Okay, I want to go to your calls and not hog the time anymore with Steve Quayle. But, Steve, the good news I've seen is our troops waking up and saying no to aiding al-Qaeda openly in Syria. It's like 80–90% of the military I walk by in Austin or other places run over and are listeners, officers, enlisted, you name it. We always had a lot of listeners in the military, but now it is just huge. I know that foreign governments listen as well because there's not a lot of media covering these issues. I know that the police statistically are waking up a lot. I've got to say more awake than the public. So the police are the answer and they're the problem because they are who the feds have really brainwashed, really gotten ready for war with us. Because when we talk about that Stasi report earlier, Steve Quayle, that you eloquently discussed, this is the essence of slavery. We have to remember the Stasi training is demonizing patriots, veterans, gun owners, and the rest of it. So it's pointed at us. That's how bad this is. But what is your intel on the level of awakening in the military and police?
Well, the level of awakening has gotten dramatically higher, especially in the military. What has really helped, too, Greg Evenson and others who are former law enforcement officers are talking to their brothers in law enforcement. By the way, I have a lot of policemen who do listen to me that send me emails and stuff. The thing that's interesting, Alex, is that they're starting to get the feel now, what I've been warning them about for over 15 years, that they're the blue list. The red list, blue list, and green list for your listeners is a real deal. It's not patriot.
No. It's now come out that they have listed people they're going to round up in a collapse. Yeah.
But the blue list is this, and here's what I want everybody to understand. The foreign troops have dossiers on all the U.S. police, whether it's sheriff, highway patrol, they have the dossier. So once the police, sheriff, every form of state and local law enforcement have been utilized in, quote, arresting the patriots, the Christians, whoever's on the Illuminati's kill list, arrest list, then those guys get terminated, okay? That means within every police department there are overseers, and this is the thing that was given to me by a man who lost his life. So I will take no stuff from anybody on this. When a man's willing to come to the truth and it costs him his life, I listen. Once, I don't know the time frame, but within 30 to 45 days after the takeout of the gun owners, et cetera, then the police, those who have been going along with the program, they get taken out. They'll use the law enforcement's families as hostages against them, Alex. And again, when I say this with great trepidation. So my prayer is, and I pray this openly, I don't apologize for it, when the order is given to shoot your fellow American or arrest your fellow American, know that the order that has been given to you from that person, that's the guy that will also be assigned to take you out when you've done the dirty work.
And I want to be clear, this is done 100% of the time in ancient Rome, 100% of the time in Cuba, 100% of the time in any authoritarian state. Nazi Germany, 1934, Night of the Long Knives, where they killed tens of thousands of police and military who had served them and lowered the drawbridge. And then they brought in the SS after that and the Gestapo. And this is done in the Soviet Union. Any of you idiots who actually are conscious of the evil and think it's fun, you are morons. Guaranteed you're going to get chewed up in the Civil War when you try this with the Patriots. That's like sticking your hand on a badger's nest. And then when you're done after that, 100% of the time, they're going to bare minimum fire your butt, keep you under surveillance. So you better join us in the fight against the New World Order right now. And it's so critical that we get the police and military awake, because if we can do that, it's over for the globalist. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I've been banned. My website is now banned at the Pentagon and also banned in foreign fields, but still the troops have a way of getting through to me and getting information, and I openly claim that God will send his delivering angels to release them from the plan of them. You know, the point is, what have we seen, Alex? Not only in veterans, we've seen active duty members of the armed service denied ammunition, denied food, having their meals changed, their
made to serve 7 tours, which is like no one would ever even think of. It's meant to destroy them. They're demonized.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here's the end.
Because a foreign enemy is in control of our military.
You got it. And the bottom line is that the military that has sworn an oath to the Constitution of this country against all enemies, domestic and private, you guys will be systematically taken out. And again, I say this, any order that's given to you, know that that person who's giving you that order will ultimately be the one that takes you out. You want to take some questions?
No, that's right. And we're not going to say what should happen to the person that wants to take you out. But, I mean, it's real simple, folks. Like in the new Red Dawn movie, when, they're telling the people to be traitors, and you know what the cop tells them? He says, kids, take these guys out. I mean, folks, this is really happening, okay? And the point is that we don't want to be the ones that move first. But know this, the minute this stuff starts, if they try it, all hell's going to break loose. We're trying to get the word out now to stop this. And, Steve, I know you know this. I know that this broadcast and what you've done and others, because we now know in hindsight, has, with people's prayers and everything, already stopped attempted takeovers before. But here's the catch-22, then we'll go to calls. We hold it back. Millions of other people in different areas, they hold it back. We all hold it back by exposing the program. It's hard for them to go green light. But at a certain point, we start beating them. They're going to have to green light or they totally lose. So how do we stop the cornering of these rats?
Well, I have an answer for you, and it's not a spiritual, it's a practical answer. Against overwhelming odds, when people have yielded in prayer and fasting and called upon God in his mercy, God takes the very weapons that are going to be used against the Christians, the believers, the Constitution, the people of good moral character. When I say moral character, I'm talking about people who have the right heart, and he gets the enemy to turn their weapons on each other. Don't think Russia and China don't have plans for each other. And so my prayer continually, Alex, is all their weapons, devices, communications, and I'm telling people how to pray, will be turned against one another and not against
And
people.
by the way, if you read naval dispatches from admirals, especially the British and others, they would pray in council, and a lot of these guys were even worldly, but they knew the power of it, for their enemies to be frustrated, for their systems to break, for them to be confused, and that's any successful army. George Washington, who was a believer, he did that as well. It's real, ladies and gentlemen.
It is real. And Alex, again, Pastor David Langford and I, quick 10-second piece, for 5 weeks on Doug Hagman's show, we had a time of calling the people of America to repentance. I know this. I know I've watched it happen, and I've gotten emails from people in high places and people coming by my store. They won't call or anything, just showing up and saying, you don't know what that did. They fear the power of prayer more than they fear any weapon that you could field against them.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, if folks don't have enough brain cells, they don't resonate and pick it up. That's in major medical studies. Let's talk to Bridget in Minnesota. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Steve.
Hey, thanks for holding.
Sure. Of all the questions, a million of them in my head, I chose to ask about the chemtrails and the mystery illness like your Uncle Alex and your cousin have been stricken with. Steve, have you ever used olive leaf oil like Alex said he has?
Yes,
or any oil of oregano?
And olive leaf to fight what I'm under right now. We got sprayed horrifically. I can only tell you this. Olive leaf and echinacea combined have really helped me.
Okay. And Alex, where do you get your olive leaf oils? Because obviously it works.
Well, I've been okay, and my cousin died. My uncle is getting a little bit better, but he's still, in really, serious water. And thanks for all for your prayers. I've got a bunch of different brands of it, and I do take it, and I try to make my children take it. The oil of oregano is incredible, but kids don't like it because it tastes Oh, well, I love hot, spicy things, so I like it. But obviously, it's not really hot and spicy. It's just real strong. But I try to get them to take that, and they've gotten better. But it's definitely hitting Texas. I mean, they're having massive deaths at every major hospital, and it's not in the news. And again, when they have some fake flu thing, they hype it up like it's the end of the world. They're not hyping this up, which historically I've seen means that they're behind it. And I've talked to the doctors. They're saying it's really weird. It's like staph and other bacteria that are souped up with microplasms in them, which they've never seen anything like this. Thank you for your call, ma'am. Steve Quayle, your take on that.
Well, I think that right now the idea is to incorporate everything that God has created, and there's a honey too that comes from New Zealand, Alex, called Manaluka. I may be pronouncing it wrong, but it's amazing stuff, and what's fascinating is the ancients had to rely on this, not the pharmaceutical companies. It's just like the reason. Let me share this. The end time, as defined in the Book of Revelation, is a pharmaceutical, devil-worshipping society that centers around merchandise. Does that sound familiar? And so the thing you have to do is counter what they've tried to do, and I believe that the Bible gives us absolute, even great instruction in that realm. So the things that you're doing with your health food supplements, that's the only thing that's going to help. It's kind of like too, when you're taking coconut oil, the lauric and caprylic acid in coconut oil, the people at Interfoods have a great product that mixes even hot chocolate and cocoa milk.
I agree. We carry it at InfoWarsStore.com. Oh, incredible. Oh, absolutely. Coconut oil, they admit, helps people with epilepsy. It's all right there. I want to just take this time briefly to thank all of you for your support, your prayers in the last year. We couldn't have done any of this without you, and we're all in this together, those of us that love liberty. Let's go ahead now with Steve Quayle and talk to Ben in Missouri. Ben, thanks for calling and holding. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for taking my call. I listen almost every day, and every now and again you have a show that's just amazing, over the top, really good. This is one of them. I think it's, Steve has brought up one of the big points that's it's actually changed my life a lot. I was never really a religious person, and for a long time I considered myself atheist. Ever since I've been awake, I've really realized that God plays a huge role in everything.
Religious experiences have the highest brain waves. So even if it isn't real, it is real. We need it. Go ahead.
Definitely. We make it real. Also, your products are great. I love the coffee. It saved me a bunch on Starbucks.
Thank you, brother.
I got my fluoride shield. Had a little bit of detox going on, but now I feel great. The point that I was going to make today was about the awakening, I think, of the masses. I think 2014 is going to be the year when the masses kind of wake up. And there have been a couple of things that have happened that have been touched on in our local media here in St. Louis that specifically have really given me a lot of hope. The first one was they had some DNA swabbing checkpoints here in St. Charles County, which is near St. Louis. It's right next door, basically. And, they reported on it about a week later in the paper after there was a bunch of public outcry. And, you get a lot of public opinion by reading the comments section of stories like this. And every single comment was, how can they do this? This is so wrong. And to the point where the local St. Charles County sheriff came out, because it was sheriff's deputies who were off duty who were doing
exactly, and we have to say no, and he backed off, right?
Right, he definitely did.
He told, but see, now they're using LAPD on duty. We got to jump to get to more calls here, but Steve Quayle, quick comment on that, then we're going to go to Ryan.
Well, I think the thing is that, God bless you, my brother, the one that just is talking. The thing is that when you have higher brainwave activity, and this is what I want to tell everybody, you've got to disconnect from mainstream TV. You've got to disconnect from the news, especially because, Alex, there's 200 patents out there of how they are lulling you to sleep.
That's right, lowering the brain waves. Again, the state doesn't want you to up your brain waves. That's why they want you to be an atheist. And I'm sorry, atheist, religious people have higher brain waves, and we have higher intelligence. There's so many studies. It's incredible. Let's go ahead and talk to Ryan in Nevada. Go ahead, sir. Your question for Steve Quayle, or comment.
Hi, guys. Calling you from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm an Afghan vet, as you alluded to prior, and found out kind of about the drug trade and whatnot that they did over there through like a ramble of friends, and saw the conspiracy theory, and here I am. trying to make the best use of my time to wake other people up. I've been, taking people to dinners and talking to them and kind of making it more intimate, calling the Congress people and whatnot. What else am I missing out here?
That's right. He's wanting orders from headquarters, Steve. How do we get our force multipliers like this combat vet in the field in America, in the war, to awaken people?
Well, first of all, this is how I do it. I have learned to basically be just like he's a vet. A well-placed shot is better than spraying and praying, okay? So I pray in the morning or sometime in the night and say, Lord, take me to the people and help me to speak to the people whose hearts are open. And, he's doing the right stuff.
That's the key. You've got to pray for discernment and say, God, I'm weak. Protect me, help me, lift me up, fill me with your spirit, command me, tell me what to do. The answer is just give God the keys. Right?
That's it. And Alex, it works. It's effective. It's much better than just trying to basically go shotgun approach to people that
absolutely. Stay there, Steve. Stay there, Ryan. I'm going to come back to you, Ryan, then Paul, Jay, Doug. We got Steve Quayle on the line with us. Ryan, there's something you can do right there is praying about what you should do. But I would go speak at city council, county commissioners. I'd go in and meet the sheriff and bring them literature and documents. I would put out a local newsletter. I would start your own YouTube channel and just do citizen reports either on the street or wherever. They don't have to be perfect or even great. At first, it's the resistance that matters, and those things will grow. But the biggest thing is you need to warn people. I mean, I do it in grocery stores. I do it at counters. When the system pushes their propaganda of loyalty cards, they get a speech. When I come up and see, the gum that has the aspartame, I talk about it. I was told by a manager at a CVS that they basically pulled the fluoride baby water out of the stores in most areas because nobody's buying it, and that they knew that I'd been reporting on it. And I'm not saying I did that alone. A lot of people did. I mean, I'll go in grocery stores, folks. I'll print up on a computer when I'm about to go to the store or something about, fluoride brain damages your child, Harvard study, and I will sit there with a printer that has sticky back where it's like 20 stickers, and I will go in the grocery store. I think I'll videotape this today and do it. I'll maybe take my son and do it, and I will stick stickers on the thing in the store. I mean, look, this is a war. That's the bare minimum I can do. I'm getting aggressive, and I don't just do that, on the air. I don't just say do this stuff. I do it on the street. Steve, any other comments or any other comments from Ryan?
Well, I think what you're doing is everything has to be proactive. Here's the thing. Everybody has got to be proactive. And when it comes to politics, forget an election. But recall petitions and even the very threat of recall petitions, and I'm talking about once you have a localized group, that can be the most effective legal means to immediately recall. And Nevada, there's a state I can't figure out. There should be a recall petition on Harry Reid because the guy is absolutely probably the most open expression outside of Feinstein and Pelosi of everything that's against everything this country stood for.
Harry Reid is an absolute enemy of goodness. He is an enemy off the chart. Does that answer your question, Ryan?
I was just going to ask, have you guys heard of Ann Barnhart?
That name rings a bell. Who is she?
Yes, I know Ann Barnhart. She basically was a very successful commodity trader that got out of the business because she was telling people what's true. By the way, she is no pushover. Anyway, it's got an AR-15 that's pink and puts out her address and challenges any Muslim that wants to take her life to come and try and do it. The lady's bold and the lady's knowledgeable, and she's very
I know who she is. A very attractive lady as well.
Yes. So, and I got to tell something. I tell every woman out there, you must learn. Go to a shooting range. Learn how to handle a pistol and a rifle because your life or the lives of your family members may ultimately depend on it. A well-armed society is a free society. And by the way, don't kid yourself. All registration leads to confiscation. And the toss-up is, will the guns go before California goes into the ocean? And based on all the seismic activity going on California, that is going to be an interesting play. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot find gun control without genocide in the history.
That's right.
Of the world.
Final segment's 12 minutes long. We're coming back in a moment, but final comment, Ryan, before we go to break.
Well, I like her way of doing things. She talked about the media strike, declare the mass federal tax, the work stoppage, and I also think, too, adding in there, no one should sign up for Obamacare I've been calling my congressmen and women. I don't know.
Oh, it's a total fraud. I'm not signing up for any of it.
Threatening them with, basically going against them and voting against them and whatnot. And I'm just wondering if that's worth my effort as well. I'm calling these Congress people and stuff and leaving them all these messages. Do you think they hear it, or is it just deleted, or?
No, they do hear it.
They won't listen to that.
But I mean, it helps. Sure, but it's not perfect. Yeah, letters are good. It's the states we need to target. We need to take over the legislatures. That's who you really need to hit. We'll be back with Doug, Jay, Paul, and others. People who are religious or spiritual have thicker brains, which could protect them against depression. The cortex is thicker in people who are religious than it is with those who aren't. This thickening could provide some protection against depression. Suggests being religious enhances the brain's resilience against depression in a physical way. Exactly. That's why they say there's no atheist in foxholes. And I'm not attacking atheists. I'm not in a war with you. I mean, all these stupid churches and all this corruption, I don't blame you. I mean, you see, this is like, thinking Jesus is like Santa Claus or something. I get it, okay? I get what your issues are. I'm saying you haven't experienced some things that I won't even talk about on air. Let's just say this. There's a lot going on in heaven and earth that isn't in your books, to quote Shakespeare. What is that from Othello? The point is that there's serious stuff happening. I want to go to your phone calls with Steve Quayle in this final segment, but we do have some footage from Dubai where it just became midnight. There's a country that used its oil wealth to actually build a big infrastructure, and so even when their oil wealth leaves, they're going to be successful, and they're building what they call a civilizational type system. And here they're shutting us down, so we're not self-sufficient. There they're trying to make themselves self-sufficient. Well, that's what Henry Ford wanted to do in America, where he paid his people enough where they could buy the cars. And the globalists have gone the other direction. And Dubai is incredibly corrupt. I'm not saying they're perfect. The point is that we can build incredible civilizations, and the globalists don't want that, because they want to crush the West because it has Christianity in it. But after they've crushed the Christians, folks, they're going after everybody. They know Christians will be the opposition to it. And that's why you see the enemy going after Christians so incredibly hardcore. Let's go to more calls with Steve Quayle. Doug in Delaware, thanks for holding her on the air.
Hey, I wanted to kind of get back to basics with folks. I mean, what can we do? They're setting up this police state. Why? Because they have destroyed the currency. They know that when the people figure this out, they're going to be mad. If we don't trigger a bank run now and they get away with a false flag, they'll have that to blame as cover for bringing down the dollar system. If we trigger a bank run first, that exposes the banks as being the weak link, and it puts the attention on where it should be, not on the boogeyman that they're going to blame after the false flag.
By the way, that's one thing Steve wanted to talk about. He hasn't. They're clearly setting up cybersecurity, and even Wired admits this, to shut down things. Clearly, most of these attacks are being done by insiders. I agree with you. I think they're going to use the dollar collapse and other currency collapses to bring in their new global SDR with a fake cyber attack that'll be real. They'll launch it, but it'll be fake in that they launch it. Steve Quayle.
Alex, what's going to happen to Americans? I don't know what day it'll be, maybe a Friday. They'll go to sleep over the weekend, even 1 minute before the market opens on Monday. Cyber attack will pilfer everybody's savings, everybody's checking account, their savings account, and they'll blame it on some third party. And literally, then you'll be forced into their system. Now, what the caller is suggesting, I agree. But when you've got people that don't even carry $2 or $3 in their wallet, checking out with their credit cards, even to buy a cup of coffee, you know something's wrong with that. And that's why the gold and silver, let me just speak to that real quick. Gold and silver is being acquired by everybody leaving Dubai, anybody who's Indian who works in Dubai or from any country, Chinese, all the people that are skilled workers are leaving Dubai with gold to bring it in their country. China's promoting gold to their citizenry. India is now. Silver, everything.
The elite all drove it down with paper naked shorts, as you know. That's on record the last 3 years.
Yeah, see,
so they could hoard it. So they could hoard it.
Yeah. So the point is, though, is if they're buying it, listen, gold always moves from weak hands to strong arms. The paper price is irrelevant. Still, right now, people say, where do you see gold going, Steve? I see it maybe touching 1180. That's the time to buy. Anything at 12 is time to buy. Silver, because you will have to have something to barter. Alex, never have we lived in the technological point where we are now, where unless you take the electronic mark of the beast, okay, the beast is a system, obviously it's a literal entity also, but how are the people who are basically living going to continue on commerce? That's why barter is going to be the order of the day.
And again, if we have a depression, even on the order of 1929 that went on for 10 years, a university study, people can pull it up, they estimate 7 million people, I think it's the University of Chicago, 7 million people died as a result of the Great Depression here from starvation or malnutrition by other diseases. 90% were quasi-self-sufficient rural. Now it's flipped with 90% being urban. Don't know how to tie their shoelaces. What is going to happen if we have a Great Depression? It will be, the Pentagon says an 80% population reduction. Have you seen that number?
Yes, and I agree with that number because it's real. And that's the number the globalists are shooting for. We got 300 million people, 80% is 240 million people. That's how the control of food and water. Look, even the American resources of water, there are companies like Nestle trying to buy, and they already own one of the Great Lakes, but there are people trying to gain the control of all the water that exists, the headwaters, and that's why...
Oh, no, he gives it to China, and now they're trying to not let the locals have their own wells and get it, so Nestle and the Chinese can have it. It's a total sellout because we don't have any lobbyists. We don't have any clout. We just lay here and take whatever Homeland Security that's a foreign group does to us. Thank you so much, caller. Anything else?
Alex, the thing is that people have to become self-sufficient in water. They have to store water. Look, I was one of the founders of the whole prepper movement almost 30-some years ago. Water, 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 a way to get it, a way to purify it, and don't drink anything. Same thing with air purification. It's going to become mandatory that you only, like what's happening in Texas, other places in the South, Montana. But if you see chemtrail spraying, that's a good time not to go for a 2-mile jog. You've got to understand they are serious about killing 240 million people, and
they are weakening this country. It's just, I mean, it's insane. I just can't believe it. Thank you, Doug. Let's talk to Jay in Florida. Jay, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling, brother.
Hey, I saw one real quick. I saw you in Florida when you came to speak. It was really powerful.
Thank you.
I also want to say, Steve Quayle, real quick, I'm glad you mentioned that the illuminated masters of the world are those who really just say who they are. They actually follow an inverted story what the Bible teaches, and it's Jehovah, Yahweh is their arch enemy, and that's really what led me to find Jesus Christ. But
God bless you, brother.
And in ISON, I'm curious if you might know something about Summit ISON, if you think NASA was correct when they said that it's nothing to worry about after it passed around the sun. And also, I may have found something in Revelation at the first trumpet sounding. It follows the fire hailing from the sky.
Yeah, wormwood and all the rest of it. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of comments, but this one was rare because it came in, they thought it went into the sun, but then a big piece of it survived and shot out, boomeranging around the sun. Very bizarre. Steve Quayle?
Well, I believe, number one, that ISON is an issue. I believe that you're seeing all of the meteorite and the former destroyed asteroid belt being sucked in to our area. I believe it's
Hey, you know 2 days ago the sun's polarity shifted.
Yep, and here's the thing, Alex, with all the HARP weather activity, I proposed this almost 10 years ago, is that we're acting now as a giant electromagnet, and we're literally bringing this stuff upon us. So I believe that, the 10th planet, Nibiru, when I started talking about that almost 15 years ago or so, it was then called Gabriel's Fist, okay? And obviously, it brings judgment. All through history, comets and asteroids are harbingers. I believe there's a difference, though, between a comet and an asteroid and a falling angel. Angel, the word star, and we're seeing the falling stars literally perfectly perpendicular, falling straight down vertically.
My dad was out in Montana earlier this year, and they sat there watching V-shaped craft. He's a pilot up at, had to be 100,000 feet. moving at speeds that were just tens of thousands of miles an hour, making right-angle turns. There's just such advanced stuff the government has, and that's why they're so arrogant. We're going to skip this network break, go to the bottom of the hour, and then let Steve Quayle get out of here and end this transmission. Thank you, Jay. Let's talk to Paul in Canada. Paul, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Steve. Hey, Alex. God bless you guys.
Thank you, brother. You too.
I just want to commend you two for the great work that you've guys done. You guys are truly watchmen of this world, and you are obviously sent from God. So thank you.
Thank you.
My general question here is about Syria and World War III, how it's prophesied in the Bible. And, I mean, the writing is on the wall. If people can't see it today, I don't know when they're going to see it, because everything is happening as the Bible said it was going to happen. You know, earthquakes, famine, pestilence, it's all increasing, and even heavenly signs, and, I mean, it's all there. So people need to get prepared now, because the doors are closing, and they need to make their amends with God. And
well, that's the issue. The government's buying targets of children to shoot and admitting it, and billions of bullets and armored vehicles, and running around like and threatening Russia and starting stuff. I mean, it is just... It is totally insane. I appreciate your call. We're moving quick now. Thank you, Paul. Brandon in Nevada, you're on the air. Any questions or comments for Steve Quayle?
Hi, how you doing, Alex?
Good, brother.
Thanks for my call.
Thank you.
I was just Oh, thanks. I was just calling to see. I don't know if anybody had brought it up, but what your thoughts were on the FAA designating 6 states yesterday for the drones.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they already rolled drones out decades ago, and then it was in the local news years ago. They were using it to spy on cattle ranchers and people that built barns on their house, in their backyards, or if a neighbor thought somebody stole their cow, they would send in, the Pentagon with a Predator, and then the media would attack us saying it didn't exist. And yes, I meant to mention that earlier, but I don't tend to crow, and we've said this over and over again, and now they've designated government drones for surveillance in 6 states, but they're already doing it. Steve, your take on that?
Well, I think that the bottom line is what they admit to and what they have are two different things. This is all just trying to make something that's very evil, very autonomous killing machines seem palatable, and I reject them. I pray for the guys that are good shots. I literally pray, Alex, that those things will drop out of the sky, follow the sky. And we did that one night on Doug Hagman's show, and the following day, one of them crashed, okay? I'm just saying that, look, they have their technology. We have our determination, and we have the living God on our side, and he is against evil. So when you take your stand against evil, you can't do it in your own strength and might, but we can be strong in the power of the Lord and in his might. So I curse them. I know people, when you see chemtrails, you can rebuke those things in Jesus' name, and I do. I pray for those planes to crash, okay? I do. And so I'm just praying for the day that one goes down over Montana, and I'm the first guy there with my digital camera.
Well, I tell you, they admit they're doing geoengineering. They're adding stuff to the jet fuels. The companies don't even know. It's all compartmentalized. It's all because we're naive. But, I mean, the sky's the limit with what they're doing. Brandon?
No, that's all. That's all my question. Thanks, Steve and Alex, and I hope you have a happy New Year's.
You too, brother. It's a key year. I mean, my spirit, my gut is just like reeling with just the onset of this enemy marching in against us. And I'm just here trying to rally people to realize you can debate how deep the rabbit hole goes. I mean, I hope Steve Quayle's wrong about some of this, but he's been right about so much before that I just hope and pray that, and again, I talk a lot about praying and God now because it's just all coming true. It's all so horrible. And that's just where my gut goes. That's the answer. It's just so horrible.
Well, Alex, you have so much evidence, and this is something that we both fight. The preponderance of evidence is not only with our argument, it's with the truth, okay? And so the reason your guts are churning is because your mind goes at such a fast rate, and that's a God-given gift. I know of no one else on the planet that goes as fast as you. That's not flattery, it's just the truth. The Bible says give credit, honor, but that's your gifting. So in order to cope with that, the only way that you can cope with that, because you already know what it means, okay? Most people take the information that we give, we warn, we provide all the documentation, and they have to have a process that that they can accept in steps, okay? I go from event to what the end product is, okay? I draw those conclusions very fast, and people accuse me of talking so fast, and I say to them, I have only this opportunity with Alex Jones today to share everything I want to share. If this were, God forbid, my last day on the radio, I would tell them all the same thing. Get right with Jesus, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not unto your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll direct your path. Alex, it doesn't matter. The mainstream media couldn't tell the truth. They are owned by the father of lies. So I get the thing where I have people in my own family say, well, they think I'm crazy if it's not on Fox. I said, well, listen, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that those feelings you have, Alex Jones, in your stomach, that I have, I literally experience nausea when I read the headlines of pedophilia going to be going mainstream, okay? I literally get nauseated when I see veterans literally being denied life-saving medicine, and meanwhile they can buy billions of bullets, billions of, or not billions, but...
And pay for everybody's sex changes.
Yeah, and that's all cool. And woe unto them. Woe unto them. That means evil be unto you that call good evil and evil good.
I hear you. It's just epic. I can feel 2014 coming. This is 20 times the concern I've ever had. It's just looming. And I'm not trying to be negative here. It's positive to know the enemy's coming. It's good to know the thief's coming. It's good to know the attacker's coming. We need to get ready. We need to blow trumpets from every hilltop and get people rallied to resist this, because laying down to it, folks, is what got us to this position. Bill in California, you're on the air.
Hello, Alex?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Steve, I want to thank you guys.
Thank you. Go ahead.
First time caller, long time listener, probably since 2006. I think you guys are both great. I got a couple points and a question, real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
I recently went to Walmart over here in like LA, and they had like this the sanitation of Christianity is like I never seen it until today. Like I've heard about it for years. Today, like the other day, I saw on display, like for Fisher Price toys for kids, right? It said Happy Three Kings Day, and it shocked me. I'm like, Three Kings Day, what is that about? And I started realizing it was the wise men story about them visiting Jesus.
No, exactly. Like, there's a total rewrite of history. That's what happens when you get conquered. And that's what 1984 is about. They're reducing the language. And I don't try to be sardonic, but, I mean, when you sit there and talk to people who are laughing at you because you're informed, and then they're so pathetically ignorant, it's really scary. What's your other point? Go ahead.
Okay, and to Steve, I want to say, you know, I love your books. I bought Angel Wars a long time ago. I think there's a major national conspiracy, and I think what you're doing, along with Ellie Marzulli and Chris Putnam and Tom Warren, you guys are blazing, like, you're just helping to bring the light, like, just like how this, like a whole, you know, the Bible is true. I'm a Christian, and I'm proud, but it's just like, when I was a kid, I always would hear about these giants, and I'm like, whoa. How come we don't talk about this? This is cool. You know, 30-foot people running around. And the new Noah movie's coming out with Russell Crowe in there. I wonder if they're going to be true to form, but I just want to praise Steve for, you know, all glory to God. But
sure, absolutely. Well, brother, I got to jump. We only got a few minutes left, and I can't go any further, but thank you so much. And I was just told Three Kings Day is a Christian holiday. So I think, you know, that point was what was confusing you, because they put out so many toys like that. But thank you so much. Listen, I can't get to the other callers, Rick in Michigan and Bob in Texas, because we're out of time. Steve Quayle, I think it's fitting that you were here with us the last radio show of the year. And hopefully you'll come back more often to do a prepping show with us, because I know you are one of the founders of the prepper movement, and you certainly saw this a long way off. And so thank you so much, and God bless you, and have a great New Year, my friend.
Thank you, Alex, and I pray for you, your family's safety, your lovely wife, and may God, and listen, brother, he will have you at the right place at the right time, and may you be hidden from all evil, Alex. And my prayer for you is that every plot, scheme, plan against you will fail, and that their weapons will be turned on each other. God bless everyone. May you stand strong in the power of the Lord Jesus Christ. Call on him. It's time to get to know him. Bye-bye, Alex.
All right, thank you so much. Well, that was the best interview ever with Steve Quayle. Oh, man, it started kind of slow, and then got just better and better and more informative. But it's just, if 10% of what he's saying is accurate, I think most of it is. I mean, I know he believes all of what he's saying, but we're all connecting dots. We all see through rose-colored glasses, myself included. But if 10% is true, it's incredibly bad. But at least we know what's happening. And unfortunately, I think almost all of it was true. It's just, the other parts I can't confirm, so who knows. But I sure hope it's not true, is I think what I meant to say. That's it for this year of radio broadcasting. Nightly News Tonight, 7 o'clock Central. Please continue to support the broadcast. Spread the word about the transmission more than ever. Please visit InfoWarsStore.com. We try to bring you the most informative books, videos, films, liberty-based apparel to help spread the word and meet like-minded patriots. The best storable seeds catalog out there of non-GMO, heirloom, open-pollinated at the lowest prices. Dash cams to protect yourself or your family at the lowest prices that are high quality. Made1776.com is the website that takes you right to the Made in America apparel that we have, and all your purchases make the show possible and what we're building and what we're doing. We're just trying our best here, grassroots, and certainly having an effect. You can get a PrisonPlanet.tv membership, and then 11 people can use it. It's $5.95 a month, or get a yearly membership and get 5+ months free off the regular price. That's going to go into the new year with a New Year's special. Was our Christmas special. We're going to have that go a few weeks at least. So PrisonPlanet.tv, if you are a member, I want to thank you. Be sure and get your friends and family to share your membership and see the Nightly News tonight, 7 o'clock Central. A lot of key reports that didn't make it here on the radio will be premiering there tonight. And to all of our friends in the media that love liberty, we don't all totally agree with each other, but we just don't like evil, and we want the good guys to win, and we abhor tyranny. And we have an instinct to stomp it in the ground. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're just telling like it is, hardcore all the way, not holding back. And we've done the intel research on the enemy. They are a pack of devil worshippers. Now, is there really a devil? You can debate that. The fact is our enemy are devil worshippers. They follow basically Mordor. A burning, all-seeing eye. I mean, that's not us copying a movie. That's that's the book copying what the elite follow in that Christian analogy. All right, folks. PrisonPlanet.tv. Don't forget that. We'll see you on the Nightly News tonight, 7. And they'll see you next year, live tomorrow.
The Empire's on the run.